Welcome to the Game Informer Show, a weekly gaming podcast releasing every Thursday. I am your host, Alex Stadnick, and as always, I'm honored to be joined by my illustrious co-host, Alex Van Aken.
Hello! Thanks for having me, Alex.
Thanks for being here. Man, I am running on adrenaline, tea,
Same.
and a love of video games, so
I'm
today's
on
going to be
3
a
hours
wild
of
show.
sleep, so it's like that reverse psychology thing where you feel like amped up, but really you're just dying inside. But we're here. We're going to have a great show. We got an awesome guest. It's going to be a great time.
Awesome guest. You better believe it, because where am I in the rigmarole? Join us each week alongside a rotating crew of GI editors and special guests from around the industry as we break down the latest gaming news, reviews, and big man swag your eyes and ears can handle. Today on this show, we're breaking down our thoughts on Sora in Smash Bros. Saints Row cover story, and so much more. But first, let's introduce our wonderful panel. Starting off, the golden boy, Brian Shea. Hello, sir.
Hey, man. How's it going?
It's good. This show is wild. I think this is the biggest show news-wise that we've done so far since Alex and I have taken over.
It's a busy week.
Yeah. And the sweet boy himself, John Carson, the pride of Milwaukee. Hello, sir.
Hello. It's an honor to be here. I'm doing well. It's been a really fun week, and there's some cool things to look forward to that I believe you guys are going to be talking about a little bit later.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking for a cool week, we're always excited to bring awesome guests on, and today is no exception. We have the EIC of But Why Though, the one and only Kate Sánchez. Hello, Kate. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing good. October is a big month for releases for every industry, so I'm tired.
You're in good company then.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're all tired, but it feels like the energy is good. So, Kate, you bring up all industries because you're not just a critic in the game space, correct?
Yes.
You do a bit of film writing, right?
Yes, yeah. So I am pretty much a general pop culture critic, but Why Though is an entertainment website that does everything from news, reviews, recaps of video games, movies, film, anime, manga, comic books, regular books, and like pretty much everything in between. So I handle a lot of that. I'm also Rotten Tomatoes approved critic, so I do a lot in film criticism and all of that stuff, which all of the releases that were pushed back are now releasing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I do game criticism as well. So that's
gotta
me.
ask, Kate, I saw Venom 2 over the weekend. What were your thoughts?
I love it. The Gospel of Simbrock. That's where I pray. It knew what it was. Really fun. And you can tell Tom Hardy just likes being Venom. So.
Oh, absolutely. I had a really fun time with it. It felt like a throwback to like the Raimi era of the Spider-Verse.
It did. It's because it had that camp. It
it
had
was
the
so
camp.
campy, and I was loving it.
And like the self-referential camp and all the pieces.
Yeah,
Chef's
you're right. They knew
kiss for the
exactly what
Simbrock
it
fans.
which is refreshing because I feel like that first movie did not. I wasn't a huge fan of the first one, so I'm excited. I think I may actually go tonight. But
it leans all the way in, and then it leans in some more. Is what that one does.
Yeah, I feel like getting Woody Harrelson as Carnage, you kind of have to at that point, right? So, Kate, I'm curious, what is your journey to where you are now? Like, what got you into pop culture, into movies, into games? Like, what's that road been like for you?
It's funny. Everybody always asks me, because like I've just been surrounded by pop culture, whether it was Star Wars or comic books or video games, like my entire life. And so for me, it was natural to go down that road, but I'm also somebody who's always seen pop culture as something bigger than necessarily just the stuff we have fun with. So I was actually in a PhD program where I was doing sociology and pop culture and religion, and looking at those pieces. And then I decided to not be there anymore, and I left, and I started a podcast to kind of give me that research outlet and, talk at people because I do miss teaching. And then eventually that morphed into me wanting to write and me wondering and noticing a lot of people in our community who had listened to our podcast, wanting to have larger conversations. And we can't like bring all of them on the show. So we were like, well, what if we all just start writing together? But Why Though formed as a community first, everything else second. It was a place for us to talk, a place for us to uplift each other, especially because the majority of our teams are from marginalized backgrounds. And so it was really about giving and creating a platform that a lot of us didn't see, because many of us still are and were hobbyists, and just kind of grew from there. And now I'm here talking to you lovely people.
That's amazing. Y'all are doing some amazing work over there for sure. I guess, and forgive me if this is too forward or personal or whatnot, but like, obviously the internet is what it is. It can be a gross place. Like, how do you stay inspired to keep, doing that important work that y'all are doing?
Honestly, and this is gonna and I am not belittling anything, because like I have been through it on on the internet recently, and I've been out through it on the internet since I came up in multiplayer gaming. But for me, I have dealt with this face to face. I came from an academic department where I've been broken down both because of sexism, racism, and just general, can you read? You did the wrong thing on your report, type pieces. And so essentially, you're behind a keyboard. I don't care. I don't know you. I don't care. It can get overwhelming at times, and it's why I mute everything. But honestly, I find strength in not only being able to use my voice and speak on things, I find strength in making a home for someone else. So the big thing is you're behind a keyboard. I've heard it to my face. It doesn't really hit me the same. But ultimately, if I take a step back and if I leave, it's not just me that's leaving. My platform is gone. And that platform is what I have used to help so many people in our community find jobs in industry now, get, and get places, and really just be a home for people to feel safe and have larger conversations that maybe not, are a little bit harder to have on Twitter. So yeah, I just do it for everybody else, not really myself. And I don't care. Mute button is great for me.
Yeah.
So
I just want to say, like, if people, everybody should go check out But Why Though. But if that sounds like something that's important to people, go fund them, go support them. Patreon.com/But Why Though.
There you go.
I just want to get that in before we started.
For sure. Well, and to get to on that topic though of being there for other people, you're doing something special with St. Jude. Did I get that right?
Yes, yeah. So for the entire month of October, we are raising money for St. Jude. We raised money for them last year. We raised over $4,000 purely through social media and like one stream. This year, we're doing it a little bit bigger. I will be streaming on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/ButWhyThoughPC. And if you want to donate and help us out and help a really, really amazing cause, you can go to stjude.org/ButWhyThough, BUTWHYTHO.
Cool. Awesome. Perfect. Yeah. Be sure to go check that out. And then finally, before we get to the games, this is a question only for me. How did you become a Rotten Tomatoes certified critic? Because that is wild to me. I've never met someone who actually can get their name on that board.
Yeah, I wrote a lot. It's a pretty hard process, and it really isn't as simple as just writing a review. It's about doing more and interacting with the media in a different way. So like, to get through that door, you have to be really persistent and keep writing. I know people who have applied multiple times and didn't get it, but I also know people who have like kind of looked at what others were doing and then kind of followed the trend and ended up getting in, because it really is just showcasing the value that your voice has. And I will say Rotten Tomatoes, and I actually do credit the film space for this a lot, there have been so many diversity initiatives and so many pieces that look at impact beyond raw numbers. So as a space, Rotten Tomatoes have been actively trying to diversify in the types of coverage that they have and the types of people getting certified, because they're realizing that it's not just the trades that matter. It's also people who run smaller communities or people who are consistently putting out criticism on podcasts, YouTube channels, that kind of stuff. So it's hard, but you just keep at it and you just engage media critically, really.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's fantastic. Well, thank you again for joining us. As you can tell, she's a very busy person, and so we're honored to have you on here. So let's get into some games, shall we?
Yeah.
Oh my Atlanta. So we came into this week. Alex and I were already sweating bullets because we knew video reviews were coming down the pipe. We knew, we knew what games were coming out. And then the GOAT, Mr. Sakurai, comes out and is like, nah, This is not like, just wait. We got a Mr. Sakurai Presents coming. So what was it? 2 weeks ago, we got the Nintendo Direct where they teased that we would have the presentation of the final Smash character.
Mm-hmm.
Which that feels like 30 years ago. But so, and it set the internet ablaze as it always does. Like, who's going to be it? Is it Doom Guy? Is it Master Chief? Is it a certain character that it actually was? Goku, yeah. That is wild to me. Yeah.
I was like, justice for Waluigi.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. The people who thought Goku are, it's okay to dream, right? But like Sakurai has said millions of times, like this is only game characters are going to be in this game. But regardless, so we get to the day.
Wow. No respect for Budokai, Tenkaichi.
Technically, Goku is a game character. Kakarot came out.
They have to originally come from a game.
Originally come. I missed the one word. Yeah.
Technicalities.
Yeah. But so we get to the day and rubbing the crust out of my eyes, waking up like, there's no way it's going to be Sora. I woke up, I was like, it's going to be a Pokemon character. It's going to be the 16th Fire Emblem character. And that trailer starts. The fire is ablaze, I'm like, who is this gonna be? Fire Emblem, maybe? And then
I
you see
Dark Souls for a sec.
Oh, yeah.
The flame, the embers.
Yeah. Well, because when it was that initial like fire droplet, I was like, okay, Sora's out. Like, because I didn't, other than like his fire spells, like I didn't really think that was going to be anything, right? And then the flame moves over, it catches like it burns out or whatever, and then the Mickey Mouse symbol on the Keyblade comes up, and the world rejoices. Sora is finally in Smash as the last character, which feels like the most fitting thing I think possible in this. We also got Doom Guy as a Mii character.
Trophy or a spirit? Okay.
No, he's a Mii skin or whatever.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a nice tip of the hat to people who wanted a little bit more Western character in that. But I think Sora, like, Sakurai went on to talk about how when Brawl was coming out, they did the most requested character list or whatever. And apparently they said Sora was like at the top of that. So, John, I celebrated with you over Slack on this news. Is this who you wanted? Yeah,
it was one of them. And I mean, there were characters that I wanted more, but like after seeing the whole presentation, like something about having Sora in this game, I said it on Twitter, I said it in our Discord. It feels kind of magical, in that like at the very end of like the Sora reveal trailer that they showed at the end of the presentation, it concludes with Sora and Mario shaking hands, like it was Street Fighter versus X-Men or whatever game that came from. But it was two characters who have been the figureheads for games that have united their common universes. So Sora has all of the Disney stuff and Final Fantasy and all of that stuff revolving around him, and Mario has all of the Nintendo stuff with him in Smash. So bringing Sora in there is kind of a full circle moment. I think just gave me chills just thinking about it again just now.
Right?
But
yeah, and they did such a good job. So obviously there was limitations with this. If you look on the map, the Hollow Bastion stage that they released with this, right? There's no Disney characters. There's no Disney songs in there's 9 songs from Kingdom Hearts that are coming. None of them are Disney related. I think the fact that they got Sora alone is a huge accomplishment, because I can't imagine what it's like trying to get licensed characters from the Big Mouse.
I was surprised they even got to use the Mickey Mouse ears.
For real?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or Simple and Clean. Like they didn't get the license for that song for in-game, just for the trailer, it seems like. So yeah, a lot of the licensing is pretty bare bones for Sora. It's all Square Enix created characters. So Sora, like you'll see Roxas or Riku,
Aqua, Xion,
yeah, all of the Organization 13 characters. But yeah,
which I personally I'm okay with. It would have been cool for the final Smash or the Ultimate to have Donald and Goofy. I think the Keyblade, sealing the door of Kingdom Hearts, it works totally fine. I think that alone made that worth it for me. Just seeing him having some of the iconic music in there, right, and Hollow Bastion as the stage, I think is really a really awesome tip of the cap to people who've wanted this for literal years. people on the timeline are like, I've wanted this since Brawl, since we thought it possible that, non-Nintendo folks were going to join the fray.
Yeah, like once
right?
Sonic and Snake started joining, it's like, all right,
Yeah.
we can do some cool stuff here.
Yeah.
And then Cloud
start
came
dreaming.
in. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. And I'm sure some people are like, another sword wielder. But I think, as Marcus pointed out to us in the morning meeting, there's not as many sword wielders as we think there are. But
Although
debatable.
John also had a good counterpoint.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So Marcus counted them up. He's like, yeah, there's like 20 characters that use swords, and there's like 62, 68 characters or something in the
80
game.
something.
Oh, sorry,
82.
80. It's
Yeah.
still like a quarter of the characters that use swords. So if you look at it that way, like, yeah, a good chunk of them don't, but a good chunk of them do still. But they are diverse. I would more say that there's a pretty big bulk of Fire Emblem specific characters that could be the issue for people.
For sure. Kate, I know this is I don't know your fandom in the Kingdom Hearts realm. Is there any love? Yeah.
There's love because I was an anime fan in the early 2000s. So
Oh, okay.
like I've watched all the cinematics. Like it's really weird. It's like the same thing with me in Final Fantasy. Like I never had a PlayStation outside of the very first one, and that only lasted for like a year before we had to hawk it. And so it's one of those things where like there is a big section of the games, same thing with Nintendo for the most part, that I don't have a lot of interaction with just because of when I was exposed to them and when I could go and play. And I'm an adult with a job right now, and it's very hard to go and play a back catalog that
Correct.
long.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I've really loved is just how lovingly humorous all of the Smash announcements are. Like, as somebody who has no vested interest in any of these things, it is a joy to, one, see people's joy for it, and two, look at how the marketing comes out for it, because I have had so much fun from like from Sephiroth to Kirby getting chucked over the cliff to watching everybody come out and love and also meme Sora. Like, it is just something from the outside looking in where it is just, there are few just purely joyous things, and watching people be happy about the inclusion of Kingdom Hearts was something that was really wholesome to watch. So yeah.
Good.
That was kind of my experience as well, where it was like, I am not a Kingdom Hearts fan at all, but like I love Smash Brothers. So it always feels like such an event when they announce a new character and everybody tunes in. And I saw Sora, and at first I was like, I wish it was somebody else. But then like I saw everybody on the timeline like losing their minds, and I'm like, I'm very happy for them.
Yeah.
Although I will say the one thing I do have a vested interest in is Kirby becoming the thing of whatever they introduce. That's the best part of any Smash announcement.
Seeing the transformation.
Yes.
He's a Keyblade master now.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, I'm very excited to like Kirby. Yeah, it's always the new character first, and then Kirby the second match to see like how Kirby plays with that. So
I wish that like all of this was happening like pre or post COVID, because I still go back and watch the original Nintendo Store announcement of Smash Ultimate, and like everyone just like losing their minds.
Chills,
I would
dude.
love to have seen that with like Sora. Maybe there is a video out there. I haven't seen it yet, but I always love those videos.
I will say it also feels amazing for a fandom that has had to wait so long for things. Like, these are the years of Kingdom Hearts for fans.
Yeah, especially like they were coming out yesterday with like, oh, it's the 20th anniversary of Kingdom Hearts. Like, that's crazy to me that it's been 20 years since the original was released. It doesn't feel like it was that close to the beginning of the PlayStation 2 era, but
and to Kate's point, it's a fandom that has always had to wait so long for everything. It's so appropriate that Sora is the final character.
I wonder how long they've been sitting on this. Like, no, this is the final. This will be the final.
I don't know, man. With licensing like that,
maybe
it was like the
just
day before.
It might have just taken a while. They're like, okay, we're gonna say we have 6 characters for this one. We'll see if we can squeeze Sora in somewhere. If we can't, then we'll throw Waluigi in.
Just doing a piranha plant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's a Goomba.
Yeah.
I imagine some assistant was tasked with like the daily Sora update. Where is it at?
How's it going?
Yeah. Have you talked to Disney today?
I feel like it has to be the equivalent of Disney getting permission from Sony to use Spider-Man in
Yeah.
things.
For real. Yeah. Yeah. So I, as someone who is a lapsed Kingdom Hearts fan who absolutely grew up with the series and was taken by the magic, as Mr. Carson alluded to, like, this is great for me. It is rekindled, and it made me excited again. I was talking to Kim in Slack, and I was like, "Ah, I want to play these games again. I want to see if I can."
Let's do it.
Because I was 3.
Let's go.
John, don't tempt me. I looked
I'm
at how
in.
long it is to play all those. We'd
I'll
have to
play it. I
stream
don't
for like
care.
3 years. It would
Fine.
be, yeah.
I will
Okay.
say,
Hmm.
if watching a whole bunch of AMVs with Kingdom Hearts characters counts, then I am a Kingdom Hearts fan because
That
I
was
did a lot of
me.
that.
There was this weird, it was like early like YouTube, like 2006, 2007. You had the simple and clean AMVs and even
Mhm.
just like the story cutscenes. I was also watching like full movies like Battle Royale on YouTube at the time, full
Yeah.
episodes of Naruto. It was the Wild West out there.
Log-
I miss
log
it.
into-
And then
log into
Linkin Park
Winamp.
to every anime.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like,
Yes.
all right, another Vegeta
Hey,
Linkin Park AMV.
I long to have the staying power of an AMV set to Linkin Park song. That's all I have to say.
We actually had a rock band night. I think this was like a year or two before COVID. I had a bunch of GI folks, both interns and editors over. We played rock band in my basement. And Ben Hansen was one of them. And he was like, we have to end with In the End by Linkin Park because we have to have an anime ending. So that's what we did. There's a video that I have somewhere of me holding my phone up and we're just scream singing In the End. We're like, I put my trust.
That's incredible. You should send that along. Yeah, in a week that I thought was already loaded with awesome stuff, it got even better. I can't wait. Sora comes on October 18th, I believe,
Wow.
right, John? Yeah,
Yes,
so
that's correct.
so relatively soon, about 2 weeks from now. Plan on us streaming or doing some sort of video for that. Also, the Mii Fighter costumes, the spirit board, like that, all that kind of stuff comes out on the 18th as well. So exciting
Awesome.
stuff. I think the happiest I am with this situation is now Sakurai gets to take a break.
Right?
Man gets to walk off into the sunset.
Go on a
Just-
sabbatical, like just
Like
unplug,
3 years.
you know?
Yeah.
I
and
wanted
then-
to make a joke of like the final character is just like the logo for Fighter Pass 3. We have 6 more characters.
yeah.
He just stands up, deadpan, and just walks out.
Just one tear and goes. Yeah.
Just drops off a letter of resignation, even though he's the owner of the
That's
company.
the final
I'll be
character.
playing. You go
Yeah.
play Street Fighter.
But in all seriousness, what they've done with, Smash Ultimate in general is impressive, but this Fighter Pass has been truly an amazing experience that I honestly, like, I'm sure this will be on Cold Takes eventually one day, but like, I don't want another Smash Bros. I think this is the perfect way to send this off. I don't know what else you can add other than more characters at this point. Like, let's let this lie for 3 to 5 years.
You're saying do like a Mario Kart 8 Deluxe style thing where it's like, all right, well, Mario Kart 8 was awesome, but nobody played it on the Wii U, so let's just put it on Switch. But
Yeah.
everybody's played Smash Ultimate, so just bring it forward on whatever Switch.
onto
Yeah.
Switch 2. Yeah, because like I feel like the combat or the character tuning is perfect in that game. We're pretty close to it. They have every stage, like they have every character. I don't know where that series goes after this, and I kind of like, especially if Sakurai's not going to be involved in the future. I think this is a perfect swan song. But
I've thought a lot about that and like
Mhm.
what the future of the franchise could hold, and like where they could go from there. And like I've seen a lot of people speculate, like, all right, maybe they take it back to like a smaller roster, like different fighting mechanics, stuff like that. I don't know how they would do that.
You'd
though,
have to
because
reinvent it.
yeah,
it's so baked into like the franchise at this point.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm not a fool. Well, I am a fool, but I understand capitalism dictates that we need more and more. So we'll see another Smash, I'm sure, one day. But as of right now, let's give Sakurai the break and his team that they deserve. So, what a great week. And the week just keeps getting better because Game Informer was like, all right, this Sakurai guy, whatever, Far Cry, your Metroids, whatever, we don't care. We're talking Saints Row, baby. That's right. The newly announced cover story for Game Informer is the Saints Row reboot. And Alex, I'm gonna let you take it away because you actually got to play this beauty, correct? And
Yeah. Me, Shay, and John, we all went hands-on with the game for several days. We
Yeah.
had access to the build and really kind of got to drive around the world of Santo Eliso, which is, the game's portrayal of the American Southwest. It's very much, Shay has an awesome 12-page cover story. Everybody needs to go read, and just kind of like the mentality of the team at Volition is very much like, okay, this is somewhere between tonally Saints Row 2 and Saints Row 3, more grounded, but there's still that, zany fun, that lightheartedness, that kind of weaves through everything. But this is a totally new story in the Saints Row universe. New characters, new city, new world. Johnny Gat is not in this game. They've been very clear.
Nope.
Fresh start. And as somebody who I didn't play Saints Row 3 or 4, I played Saints Row 1 and 2 with my stepdad, and well, frankly, he played it and I watched him. But I am kind of excited for a fresh start for Saints Row, and the game is definitely still feels it's still early in development, still very much in active development. So of course it wasn't polished like it would be at launch, but I was pretty impressed with the swath of activities that you can participate in. And I know, Shay, you were all about those criminal ventures, which is like this new system for expanding your empire in Saints Row. And do you want to talk about that, Shay?
Yeah, sure. So it's basically the elevator pitch of Criminal Ventures is a legal front for illegal activities. So the two that we had access to were Chalupa Cabra, which is basically you have a food truck empire, but underneath it you are running and like smuggling drugs and distributing drugs. You have a legal front of a food truck empire across the city, but underneath it you're also using those trucks to sell drugs as well. And so the missions there were like you're going over to like rival food trucks and like stealing their trucks so you could rebrand them as Chalupa Cabra trucks. It's absurd. And then the other one was Bright Future, where it's like you look like a waste disposal company on the up and up, but what you're actually doing is striking these like seedy under the table deals with corporations around the city to like dump their waste illegally. And so that involves finding these like trucks that these corporations have stashed all around the city, like up in like the mountains and out in the desert, and then driving it back to dispose of it. Like you have to drive carefully though, because the the waste is so unstable that it will explode if you get into too many accidents.
Yeah. And the way it works, it's almost like this is reductive, but it is almost like a light version of I'm not even going to say that. There are city building elements in the fact that there are lots that you can accumulate, and there'll be empty lots, and you can essentially green light these criminal ventures, and you can pick where their buildings are going to be. So one of the examples they said, well, if you want to go to the rich neighborhood and install the toxic waste dump, you can do that. Or you could, put it out in the desert if you wanted. Like, they're very much about like you're kind of like your choices are kind of informing the way that the city is shaped. So John, what do you think about the criminal ventures? Like, I know you were also excited by them. What do you think with your hands on?
Yeah, I think that they're pretty fun so far. Like like you guys said, we only saw two of them. We were only able to play two of them. But they do get you different rewards as you do more of them. They each have their own quest line that you work through, and they also have like their own managers and characters that you can meet through the criminal ventures. So you get a little bit more extra Saints Row spice with doing those. And like you mentioned, like you can have different lots around the city and kind of customize it to make it your own Santo Eliso.
Yeah.
Your city will end up looking different from your friend's city, which you can eventually visit in co-op. Like you can start doing online co-op between like with friends, travel to their city, see where all of their ventures are, and help them out with their ventures.
And I think there's progress. Like, you bring stuff back with you. Like, you're not just going there, and it's not that thing where, oh, I'm going to go play co-op with my friend, but then I have no progress.
Right.
They said it's very much you are, taking back progress with you.
Yeah, and not only that, but if you like say you and I are playing together, Alex, and
Yeah.
you're late game and I'm early game, according to Volition, obviously we didn't get to see this in action.
Yeah.
If I come into your game and we do like a late game mission, and then I go back to my game will remember that I completed that mission in your world. So when I get to that in a story, it's not going to make me replay that mission.
That's really cool.
Love that. Yes.
So
More
that's
games
pretty
need to do
awesome.
that.
Respect our
That's
time.
amazing.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of new stuff on top of the criminal ventures. There's a revamped vehicle system, revamped driving system that includes like some really fun car combat now, where like other cars, if you ram into them, they have like health bars, and so like it's almost like I can't remember the name, like Burnout maybe, or was it Shift?
Revenge?
Reve-
Paradise?
Well, I can't remember that old Xbox One. There's so many racing games from that generation.
Split Second or
Yeah, split second. Insert here, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you can drift around, and the drifting's really fun because the camera like zooms in on the car tight as you
It's a little Mario
swerve.
Kart-esque.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very arcadey, but it feels very fun. And like ramming cars,
Yeah,
you
it's
can
basically
jump
like
on
you hit
top.
a face button and you can juke one way or another
Yeah,
with your car. So like if you're driving and you just like hit like left, and I think it was the X button on the Xbox controller,
Mhm.
your car like just like jukes real quick and then back to like its spot. So it's like you're almost like just like shoulder ramming somebody, but in a car.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and you were talking about one of my favorite things, which is getting on top of the roof.
Yeah. You can, I forget which button it is, but there's a face button that you press, and as you're driving, you will surf on top of your car, and you can do a couple different things with that. You can, if I imagine a co-op, if your friend's driving, they can keep driving, and you can, be on top, shooting bad guys or whatever. And you can do that solo kind of, but of course the car will slowly start to come to a stop. But what's really cool is it ties into the wingsuit mechanic, which is new in the game. And so one of my favorite things that I did in the game was I drove across like this winding interstate in the desert, and I got to like the very top, and I started surfing on the top of my car, and then from there you can launch into your wingsuit, and I like propelled myself off of this giant bridge, and then just started wingsuiting throughout Santo Eliso. And it's a lot of fun. And then of course, you can, just land regularly if you want, or you can land back on top of other cars and hijack them. There's a lot of really fun gameplay systems and a lot of really fun mobility, which in open world games, mobility and traversal is personally my favorite aspect. We'll get to it in a little bit, but Far Cry, that's probably my favorite aspect is, some of the new traversal abilities. Just because it makes the moment to moment gameplay fun, in between missions, in between side activities. Like if what I'm doing every few seconds is rewarding to me, or like, scratching that itch for lack of a better phrase, I'm happy. And Saints Row really does nail that in my opinion.
It's nice. Kate, are you a fan of the series, or what's your level of excitement coming
I
out
am.
of the reboot news? Yeah.
I am actually excited. I love Saints Row. I was never a Grand Theft Auto person, like at all. Like, don't know why. But I've been a huge Saints Row person since 1. I never played 4, played 1, 2, 3. It was something that was just really fun playing with my friends. I mean, like usually it was like one person had one console and we all just went around and like made choices and told people to do like dumb stuff like throughout the world. And so it was always one of those games that like just resonated with me. And it's really weird because like parts of it I feel like I'd be like, why are they doing this? This is weird. But when you're actually playing it, it just works really, really well. I don't know. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It's a game that, like, on paper, I should not like.
Yeah.
I really love it. Oh my God, I really love it. And I can't wait to jump back into it. And I'm just sad that there's something called Chalupa in the game because it means that it can't be in real life. And I want there to be a food truck for that because it's an amazing name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised I hadn't heard that before.
Yeah. That's so good.
I just want to say, like, I know there's a lot of worries out there for people who feel like this is a step back for Saints Row for like how crazy and outlandish 3 and 4 got, going into space, fighting heaven and hell. This still has a lot of that the flavor that Saints Row 2 and 3 had. I'd say in the earlier game for 3. There's a lot of banter between your group of saints. There's a lot of, I want to say off-color humor, but it's like a little saucier humor. Like there's a point where one of the missions that we played, you as the boss are trying to find Kevin, who's your himbo rave partner, to watch telenovelas with him like later that day, and you find out he's been kidnapped by his former gang, the Idols, and
Who are like these neon, like their fashion's really cool.
yeah, it's all like dead mouse helmets and
Pretty much.
yeah, and rave gear, and trying to think of where I was going with this.
Is it the porta
The
potty?
humor.
Oh yeah. No, it's like the boss was like trying to call him up. Someone else answers, and they're like, "Oh, Kevin's tied up right now." She's like, "Oh, it's not the good kind of tied up, huh?" Like it still has like that kind of humor in there.
Yeah, totally.
So
For sure.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it's taking itself more seriously than 4, but I mean, most games take themselves more seriously than 4 did. But yeah, like John said, there's still that fun, those quips, those lighthearted interactions, even amidst this, this conflict. And it's weird, like Kate said, like on paper this shouldn't work.
Yeah.
But Saints Row is just one of those IPs that, you give the benefit of the doubt. You kind of leave
Yeah.
your preconceptions at the door a little bit, and you're like,
Mhm.
all right, let me take this for what it is, you know?
Yeah, it's really weird because like a lot of the stuff that it's chosen to do over its tenure, and even just like some of the stuff hearing y'all talk about, and even some of the stuff like we kind of know, it is like my brain is like, this shouldn't work, but when I'm actually playing it's always worked for me. And it's been one of those games where I'm like, I feel like I should be mad about some of these things here.
Yeah,
But when
yeah.
I'm actually playing it, I'm like, no, this actually works. And it also probably helps because like my entire friend group, like in that age of my life, we were just all very into Saints Row together.
For sure.
So
Cool.
Yeah. Well, that's Saints Row, guys. Anything before we wrap up this topic?
No, I'm just looking forward to it. You can read the full
Yeah.
cover story in Game Informer magazine. If you're a digital subscriber, it's live right now. Just sign into your account either on your phone, on your tablet at GameInformer.com, and you'll have access to it. Otherwise, if you're a print subscriber, it'll be arriving in your mailboxes in the coming weeks.
Yeah, and we've got a bunch of exclusive gameplay.
Yeah.
YouTube.com/Game Informer. We love when we get the exclusive gameplay.
Yeah,
And
and
that makes me and Alex happy.
We'll
Yes,
be
it
rolling
does.
out exclusive previews and features and all that stuff.
Yeah.
GameInformer.com/Saints Row.
Exclusives, baby. And that's coming February or March, right?
February 25th.
Okay, February 25th.
2 days before my birthday.
Wow.
There you
happy
go.
birthday, Shay. It's a beautiful
Yeah.
thing. Well, I don't know about y'all. I'm starting to get a little hungry. John, I heard you know a good taco place to
I do.
Good food truck.
Yeah, good food truck.
Yeah, it's habanero.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All
Well,
right.
we're gonna go get some food and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the GI show. I had a joke for John leaving the show and I completely lost it. So that's the joke in itself.
John's dead.
You had to hit the John?
Had to hit the John and then left him in the John. I don't know. Get us out of here.
Maybe
Ben
we should
Reeves has
restart
joined us.
this. Jeez.
Hello.
Oh, we're just rolling with it. Okay.
No, too
Boy,
far
yeah.
gone. Yeah.
Show's really going downhill, isn't it?
Yeah.
I wonder what's different.
Not salty at all, of course. Yeah. Ben Reeves, welcome. How are you?
Good. Yeah,
Yeah?
really good. It's Metroid week, right? So
Yes. Amongst
Gotta-
the other
gotta
things.
play a new Metroid game.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, let's just jump into it. Like Ben, you did the Metroid Dread review for us. And I was about to spoil what you gave it. That wasn't my place. I'm losing my mind today. But what do you think of Metroid Dread? You're a big Metroid guy around the office. I
am.
understand.
Yeah. I was super hot going into this. I gave it a 9, which was I was slightly disappointed to give it a 9 because I wanted to give it a 10, but got to give it what it deserves, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, a 9 is still a great score. I really had fun with this game. We talked about it earlier. It's a very Metroid-like experience, for lack of a better term, right? It's very, if you've ever played a Metroid, you know, hey, why don't you break me off another piece of that Metroid? Like, here it is. It's exactly what you expect from this game, but the series, but at the same time, it's exactly what you want too. It's a great exploration based. You're constantly getting new upgrades. You're exploring this very haunting atmosphere. A lot of solid, challenging boss fights that are honestly a little bit frustrating at times, but also incredibly rewarding once you beat them. I had a good time start to finish with this game.
Good. Yeah, I was surprised about the difficulty, and the Emmys I feel like are a huge part of that. Those are I'm not even gonna try to remember what the actual, like, because it's an acronym or whatever. So I'm not even gonna try to bring that what it is. But they're the robots who stalk you basically in specific areas of each level, and they do not play, right, Reeves?
They do not mess around. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, honestly, if you're playing the game, you'll be like, you'll take down the first two, and you'll be like, I don't know what these guys are talking about. These things are easy. I'm folding them like laundry. But just wait, buddy. Just wait until you get to the later ones. They get a little rough, especially that yellow one. I still argue was one of the hardest fights in the game for me.
Because they build on each other, right? So the first one is relatively normal, but then like the next one after is sped up or can see through walls and like that kind of stuff. And it builds to a level that
Right.
sometimes feels insurmountable, but also it's kind of weird how they handle checkpoints, because like if you die to an Emmy, which you will a lot, they'll put you back at the door that you came into.
Right.
But then also too, if you're in the normal sections of the maps and you die and you hadn't saved before, you go back all the way to your old save point, which I thought was a little like old school. I guess I didn't love that part of it, but not enough to dissuade my time playing it. So
Maybe just to back up too and set it up a little bit. Like Emmys, there's only 7 of them in the game. They're like a special class of enemy that you encounter at set points on the map. Like they have their designated area that they patrol, and they are basically indestructible for all intents and purposes until you reach a point where you can upgrade your gear and then take them on. So for most of the game, you're spending your time running from these guys, because if they catch you, they're 99% going to kill you. You have like a small window where you can deflect their attack and try to escape, but that is very hard to do. So you are scared of these things. You do not want to come in contact with them. You want to run, or you have a new cloak ability, so you can use your cloak ability to hide from them. So there's a game of cat and mouse going on there. But yeah, then when you upgrade your gear, you can turn the tables, and like Alex was saying, then it's game on. You can try to take them on. But even those fights can be hard. You know, there's a couple of the in there where it's like really really harrowing, because you're like trying to shoot them and like wear down their plated armor so you can finally shoot their weak point, but it takes a bit of time to wear that down, and so you need to keep your distance while you're doing that.
Definitely. But I do think that's where the highs of my time with the game came in when I finally beat an Emmy. You feel hyped. It's like a let's go moment when you finally take one of those down, and it rewards you each time with either a suit upgrade or a weapons upgrade.
Okay. Is that your main means of upgrades then, is through those fights? Or are there can you find other things throughout the environment?
Correct. So it wouldn't be a Metroid experience if you didn't have one of the statues holding up a new upgrade, and there's plenty there. But it does retread a lot of familiar ground that I know, Reeves, you had not a tough time with, but that was definitely something that you pointed out in your review.
Yeah, there's definitely points where if you've played a Metroid game, or even Metroid-like, Metroidvania, if you will, you probably know what to expect. It's like, I'm going to wander this area until I find the equipment. But specifically, if you've played a Metroid game, half of the gear, maybe even more than half of the gear, is all stuff you've collected in previous Metroid games before. And it just isn't super exciting to get the morph ball this day and age, in my mind, you know, and it's not the first thing you get. You have to wait to get the ball. But even when I got it, I was like, this isn't really that exciting. So I wish there were more exciting. No, I wish there were more interruptions in this podcast. Please, somebody interrupt me.
Yeah. No, like you saying that reminds me of Ori, right? And like from Ori 1 and 2, there were definitely like similar abilities, but I felt like as a player returning to that series, specifically in a Metroidvania format, I had a lot of fun with new abilities, right? And Metroid is this, well-established series. Sure, it's been gone a while, but we had Samus Returns on the DS, on the 2DS or 3DS, I'm sorry. A couple years ago, and so I think it seems like you would expect, some newness, right? So it's kind of interesting to hear that there is a lot of, old ground that's being covered.
The formula is definitely kind of showing its wear,
Okay.
right? And I think Nintendo knows that too, because they've said that this is going to be the final installment in the, what are they calling it? The Metroid saga. So, and story-wise, some things happen in this. You're like, okay, like this feels like they're trying to put a button on it, but there's also like,
Okay.
there's definitely things they can do afterwards. So I'm curious to see where they go. All that is to say, they've reached a point where I think they recognize the formula needs to change. So I think whatever they do next could be the Breath of the Wild for Metroid. Whatever they're going to do with that formula, they're going to kind of like go back and re-explore what it means to be a Metroid-like game, which I'm excited for. Like, I love this game, but I'm really excited to see where they go next.
That was going to be my question. As somebody who's like in and out of Metroid as a player and obviously it's more out than in, I would say. But there are so many Metroidvanias out there all the time. Do you think that a lot of these mechanics are because it's Metroid being Metroid that it gets a little bit, kind of not rough around the edges, but gets a little kind of weird now? Or is it because there have been so many Metroidvanias that everybody has kind of been playing between the last Metroid and now?
Maybe a little bit of both. I mean, it's not special to be a Metroid. Even, I want to say, 2017 when Samus Returns came out, it felt like a little bit rare to have a Metroid game. But these days, it's just like you can't walk around a corner without hitting one. It's just they're all over the place. And I think the indie space is doing some really cool stuff. I actually wrote a opinion about this about a month ago. If you want to look it up online, I can't remember the name of it, but whatever. Good luck.
That's a great way to plug. Plug that.
But I did talk about games like, I bring up Yoku's Island Express all the time. They took Metroid and they combined it with pinball. And it's not my favorite Metroid game by any means, but it's just a blast to play. And there's stuff like even Dead Cells. It's a roguelike game that has Metroid elements. So I think the indie space is exploring this genre really well and doing some fun things with it. And Nintendo's kind of holding to that Super Metroid formula, and this is that same pattern again. So and it's done really well. Like they know how to do this pattern.
Yeah.
But it'll be nice to see if them shake it up in some way.
So Ben, the headline is the next Metroid should take inspirations from indie games.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nah, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound right.
I almost wonder if I'm not a Metroid fan, so excuse me if I'm talking out of my butt, but there's always been like this underlying element of horror in the series, and that alien, unknown, right? I would love to see I guess I don't care. I'm not going to play it, but I think it'd be interesting. That's what I meant to say. I think it would be interesting if they did lean more into like a horror kind of sort of experience with Metroid, and like if they were looking to reinvent it, right?
It took a lot of inspiration from like the Alien franchise in terms of like the tone that and the atmosphere it was trying to set, especially in like those earlier games and like kind of not to play off the term alien isolation, but the isolation and like the feeling of just being alone out and like exploring this alien area. That's a lot of what Metroid seemed to harp on, especially in those early days. And now that we're back to kind of replicating and improving upon that formula. I mean, I haven't played Metroid Dread yet, but it seemed like they were kind of doubling down on that, especially with enemy bots.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that have you guys read my review? It feels like that's definitely like a big part of my opener is just Metroid. It's the closest thing Nintendo really has to a horror franchise because it's so weird. It's so different.
Luigi's Mansion exists.
Well, you know what? It's an interesting point.
True.
Yeah. But even Metroid is more serious about it,
Yeah.
Luigi's Mansion's kind of like the Ghostbusters.
It's totally. That's a great fit. And Metroid is like Alien, but done through Nintendo's lens, so it's a little bit kid friendlier. You know, it's still rated T
Yeah.
for teen, but it's got that edge shaved off a little bit. So it'd be interesting to see like what a game with its fangs out was like from
Yeah.
Nintendo.
I would
But-
be interested to know if like if they would push anything closer. What was that game that came out like was it last year or 2 years ago? Carry On?
Carry on,
Yeah.
Carry On? Yeah, that one was a good horror Metroid.
Yeah, where you play as the actual monster.
Yes.
That'd be cool. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Nintendo, are you
that-
listening?
That game was very much, yeah, like it wasn't. There's a lot of mechanics I didn't enjoy about that game, but the spectacle of you know, slithering through the environment, it was super empowering and also just like super creepy.
That
And the
reminds me
visuals
of
were
the.
really good.
Go ahead, Ben.
The visuals were really good. If you like, it has a 16-bit aesthetic that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And hold on, the carrion's coming up.
Oh no!
Out of
no,
my
no,
throat.
there's water. No,
Oh, man.
man. Yeah. I will say I agree with this, the feeling of being a bit samey, but at the same time I'm really glad the developer got their shot to bring this to a wider audience, because Mercury Steam did Samus Returns in 2017. That was also the year the Switch was coming out. So I feel like Samus Returns was really panned is extreme, but really, you know, everyone
Ignored?
was yeah. I mean, like
I would
everyone
say,
was
I think it was ignored.
yeah, everyone was excited about Breath of the Wild and the Switch, rightfully so, right? So I'm glad this team who is showing that they understand what it takes to make a good Metroid game is getting a shot now. And I saw on Twitter, which, you know, you believe everything you read online, but it's one of the top selling games on Amazon right now. Like, I would love for this to be kind of that dev's opportunity to be like, hey, you know, like people like Metroid, right? Like, this was a good, safe is reductive a little bit, but like, you know, this is a good showcase for what we can do now with what's coming next. Let's really ramp this up and show what the new era of Metroidvanias can be. And I think they have that opportunity because they have implemented things like the counter, right, that they introduced in Samus Returns that I love, that makes combat feel more active than just like pointing and shooting. You know, I want to see them do more of that, and I do think the Emmys are a good first step in that. And you know, there's a level of frustration that creeps in from those encounters after a certain point, after you've died to them for the 15th time. But when you get like that kind of perfect run on how you can feel the devs are pushing you and then how you triumph over them, that I feel like put this in a league where this is a lot of samey stuff. This is also the best version of this. So like, that's what I was hoping for this game. And that's kind of what I got. So
It's also interesting to me that Mercury Steam, you know, you call the genre Metroidvania, or a lot of people do, and Mercury Steam has worked on both of those franchises. So you'd think like, wow, these guys must really know the formula. And now that they've established we can do this, I would love to see them like, all right, you're unleashed. Like, be creative and do something wild and push this in a bold new direction.
Yeah, and all signs are pointing to, you know, like the reviews, the sales charts or whatever. Hopefully, people are really paying attention this time, and I do think there's a hunger for Metroid. You know, and obviously we're in our own timelines, we're in our own bubbles, but like, everyone's asking where Prime is, where the Prime remasters are. Everyone freaked out when it was the 2D, you know, when they announced Metroid Dread, or at least I did. Maybe I was so loud that I convinced myself everyone was excited for it. But
I think a lot of people were.
Yeah, so I'm really hoping now people show up with their wallets too and prove to Nintendo that like we shouldn't have to wait 2 decades for another one of these.
Here's what I want though. I want, because this is the final game in the Metroid saga as we know it to this point. Like, beginning with the first Metroid back in the 80s, all the way up to this point. This is the conclusion of that from what they've said. I want them to let me play the entire Metroid saga on my Switch. Like, I know I can play Metroid 1 on
And
the
Super
NES
Metroid.
and Super Metroid on the SNES. But there's no way of playing Metroid 2 on Switch anyway. I would personally love to see the 3DS version come to that. And I would even like to see Metroid Zero Mission come instead of having to go back and play like the NES version, because Metroid Zero Mission was incredible and did such a great job remaking it and even adding like an epilogue. And then I've never actually played Metroid Fusion, so I would really I would jump at the chance to play that, and that's what leads directly into Dread. Like I was able to do a roundtable Q&A with the producer who's been with the series since the original game, and he was basically like, yeah, like we wanted to lead directly from Fusion into Metroid Dread. Like if you remember, like Metroid Dread was reported, I think like 2007 was like the earliest
I
report.
think it was by us too, right?
It was.
Yeah.
And they've been kicking around this. It was originally going to be a sequel, I believe, on the DS. And then they decided not to do it because they couldn't get the technology right for the Emmy robots.
Oh.
So to make it so those encounters were good enough, they had to keep waiting for like the technology to be good and like for Nintendo to give them like the green light. And it's been on and off development for, you know, the past decade and a half, which is wild. And it's finally here now. It's great. Like, and we didn't even know about it coming into this year. Like it was such a big surprise. And not only that it's coming, but it's coming this year. And now it's coming out literally tomorrow.
Yeah, for real. They took the Fallout 4 route, right? Where it's like announce it at E3, it's out in 6 months. And I love that. And I think, you know, Nintendo did a good job of, there was a lot of trailers for it. I feel like they really pushed it. So I'm loving it. I'm a big Metroid fan. I talked about it on the stream. It's a relatively new love over the last 3 to 4 years. I think this is one of the best versions of that. And I'm excited to beat it. I'm excited to get to this final boss that I've heard some things about. So
I am excited to play it. I was being a dingus earlier when I said I don't play
You?
Metroid games. I love Metroidvanias.
Honestly,
yeah, I'm a dingus, yes.
I would also really love that Metroid Prime trilogy just because I've never finished a Metroid Prime game. So I would love the opportunity to be able to do that. And I feel like getting it away from like, because I bought the trilogy on Wii. And I just really don't like sustained motion controls. Like I can't get through Skyward Sword because I just can't do it. Even with the button inputs, it just doesn't feel like programmed correctly in Skyward Sword HD.
Yeah.
And
Well, my theory, that thing's been rumored for a while, right? My theory is like, well, Dread's been coming, and so they want to get that out the door because they want people to focus on that and buy that. So they're not going to talk about some other Metroid until Dread's done. But now, Dread's out. Hopefully, people are buying it, and if people buy it and it sells well, then that'll encourage Nintendo to be like, we got more Metroid. Here you go. So
I just need every game company to embrace not like re-releasing things on new platforms because the tech is there now, and especially for Nintendo. Like, not only can you bring over your catalog from your like consoles, we can bring in your catalog from your handhelds. It's right there. Like, it is a beautiful market. As somebody who did not own a Nintendo system until GameCube, and then pretty much nothing after that until like the Switch, and that was like the start of the pandemic, that like there is an audience there to go and find those games because they may have come in later in the series and they want to go back, or it's just a blind spot that they haven't gotten to play. And I think that like Nintendo, especially more so than Xbox and PlayStation, has that window that so many people want to touch but haven't been able to. And by having a console that is both a handheld and a stationary console, it's like, it's ludicrous to me that they haven't done some sort of massive push yet. Like, for any franchise.
I've been a defender of the Wii U. Like, obviously, like there's so many missteps in that system's history, but there are many, many, many solid games that I absolutely adore on the Wii U. And that is one of my favorite things about the Switch is Nintendo released a ton of Wii U games because they know that nobody played them on the Wii U because like so few people bought it that it's like, oh, we have all these amazing games. Let's just put Super Mario 3D World and add a little like side game to it and call it a new game. And then like, I'm perfectly fine with that because the Switch is so much better suited for that game anyway.
Yeah. I mean, and there's even people like me, like I had those systems. I had the N64, I had the GameCube, but my family was pretty low income, and so I didn't get to play all the games, you know, and so I missed a lot of them. N64 had, you know, the memory was tied to the cartridges. I talked about this in my Zelda essay I put out, you know, a month or two ago. It was like Breath of the Wild made me a Zelda fan because as much as I liked Ocarina as a kid, every time I picked up that cartridge, it was somebody had written over the save, you know? And so like I'm so glad that that's going to be coming out.
Very happy those games are coming, but I really wish they were putting the 3DS versions of Ocarina and Majora's Mask because those versions are awesome.
Yeah.
It's like with the Mario one, it was a shame that the 3DS version of Super Mario 64 didn't go on that collection.
Yeah, I loved that game growing up.
And I
so.
also think too, like just from a game preservation stance, like there are some, like I have accessed games that I did not know I would ever play again through Xbox Game Pass that like people are getting to play for the first time, and franchises that they're getting to play for the first time. And I think like we talk a lot about accessibility, but we don't talk about how affordability plays into that, especially for a lot of people who had been priced out of gaming traditionally and just in spaces where it's not really conducive to like do all these things. And so like if you preserve games by re-releasing, like I personally prefer re-releases as opposed to reboots, because you're allowing somebody to have that cultural touch point that they didn't have access to.
For sure.
It's great. I'm gonna go off on a tangent, but
So
that's
Nintendo,
awesome. Yeah.
just bring the
I'm very
Metroid
happy that
Prime
Future
trilogy
Frenzy
to
is available.
Xbox.
Yeah, bring it to Game Pass.
Put it on Game Pass. That's all you got to do.
Perfect. I'm down with that.
You got it. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. And we're really, I mean, this is totally speculative, but like we are looking at a future, right, where we get Dread this year. If Prime Trilogy exists, maybe that's next year, and then maybe the year after is 4. Like, you know, we could be in a Metronaissance. That sounds
I was up in here trying to make a similar joke.
A Matthew Metronaissance?
Yeah, Matthew Metronaissance. Yeah, that sounds like a Skynet type of thing. I don't know if I want that, but so.
Oh no, we've activated Metronaissance.
Oh no!
Metronaissance Prime.
Yeah. So Ben, Ben's review is on the site right now. You said what you gave this.
I thought you were about to kick me off the show. I was
yeah, get the hell out of here. Yeah.
Yeah, I gave it a 9. Check it out. Metroid.
Yeah.
Metroid Dread. I forgot the name of the title there. Metroid Dread. It's a 9. It's great. It's a good game.
Yeah, and
it's a good 9.
It is a solid 9, and it's going to be vying for my top 5 when the year comes to a close. So
yeah, I tweeted it out. I'm like, I was really hoping this would be my game of the year. I don't think it is, but it'll definitely be, like you're saying, probably top 5.
Yeah, it's one of the best versions of a Metroidvania you can get. So thank you for that, Mr. Reeves. We're gonna take our wingsuits over here, and we're gonna fly over to Reeves, Kate, and Van Aken, because y'all have been playing a little Far Cry 6. If I'm to be believed, you're to be believed.
When I'm not hitting a tree in my wingsuit, yes.
Yes. Correct.
I actually sent a message out to everyone when I was playing it, because I was playing it like 12 hours a day to like get the review up in time for embargo. And I put a message to everybody in our Slack, and I was like, I need to take a break because I just flew into a tree 6 times in a row. And it's like an instant death if you fly into a tree.
It's like
Yeah.
your finger touches it, and it's like, all right.
I
Oh, no.
remember during the hands-on preview, I was so excited to realize there was a wingsuit, and like maybe 2 to 3 seconds in the air, and just I was like, oh, okay, that happens.
How that would be for us in real life, probably, if we're being
Yes.
honest. Yeah. Mr. Shea, you wrote the review for Game Informer. What did you think of this Ubisoft joint?
Yeah, so I really had a great time with it. I have been a really big fan of Far Cry ever since 3. I thought that was a lot of people attribute that to like kind of a turning point in the franchise. And ever since then, they've had just incredible open worlds to explore. They've had awesome villains for the most part. And I think that this is kind of like the best use of the Far Cry formula since kind of they've established the formula. Almost, I think that it's definitely there are a lot of people on Twitter and right now saying like, oh, the formula needs a shakeup. And if you think that, then you're probably not going to enjoy Far Cry 6, because Far Cry 6 is very much like, this is like the formula cranked up to 11. And it's also the best that the series has been using this formula, I believe. It has a huge, just massive open world. Like, this is just unnecessarily large, maybe. But like, it's beautiful around every single turn. There's unbelievable vistas. There's just great scenery everywhere you go. The water looks great. The sunsets look incredible. And there's just so much to do within the world, like whether it's side missions, main story missions. And I would say that like the gunplay feels really great in this game. It maybe is a little bit like lock on with its aim assist at times, but other than that, like I always had a really great time stealthily moving through an area, popping heads so before they can alert their friends and just keep going undetected. But yeah, like I think the main story was very good early on, especially. I think they really hit a lot of like really emotional notes. Like during the preview event, I actually teared up at one of the early cutscenes. And like it hit me hard, and like it does, the hard hits keep coming in the narrative. I can't talk in the narrative. However, it is the blow is softened a little bit when you take into account some of the gameplay. Like I mentioned this in my review, it's a little difficult to like feel super affected by a narrative gut punch when it's like, all right, I just fought through this base shooting CDs at my enemies, and there's a cute little wiener dog named Chorizo running around distracting enemies. But thankfully, those are choices you can make as well. So like, if you don't want to have Chorizo as your amigo and you want to either have a crocodile or no amigo whatsoever, those are the animal companions, you don't have to. I actually opted not to have an animal companion for a good chunk of my playthrough because I wanted to kind of immerse myself more in the story. And I think that for the most part, the mainline cutscenes and the story beats land for me. I think that Giancarlo Esposito was terrific as Anton Castillo. I thought he came off as extremely menacing. But I think that the voice actors behind Danny Rojas
Danny Rojas.
Not the Ted Lasso character.
No. Oh.
Oh man,
I thought that
I would much rather have him in this game, honestly.
Yeah.
But I think this is the best Far Cry protagonist they've ever had. I think
Did you play as a guy or a girl?
I played as female Danny Rojas, and I think that she, she's much more fleshed out. Like she's fully voiced. She's a full character, much less of like an extension of like your player as an avatar. It's more of this is an actual character that you're controlling.
Mhm.
And I love the tiny little like touches that they have. Like there's something that I noticed where like you'll be driving around and like I guess a song that Danny likes will come on the radio and she'll start singing along during like the chorus and stuff. And
That's fun.
tiny touches like that, like I absolutely love in like giant open worlds, because like you pick up on like the big things, but like the little things I think that like maybe people would think that you wouldn't even notice are the things that like end up being my favorite details.
I thought it was interesting that you can see your character in the cutscenes,
Mhm.
but you're still locked into that first-person camera while driving a car because that'd break immersion or something.
Well, when you're at camp, it goes to third person.
Yeah, third
now.
person. And then all of your co-op missions are also done in third person.
I just meant while you're driving a
Wait,
car.
no, it's not. I'm looking at
Oh.
my other person. Never mind. I'll take that back.
I
I
wanna
was
be
staring
able-
at my other.
Is there an option to pull back that I'm missing where you're like driving a vehicle and you can be in third person?
I don't think so. I looked for that as well because first person driving is much more difficult than third person driving, in my opinion. I think that's just the years of racing games conditioning me.
Yeah.
But I know eventually I got the hang of it. And that's the thing about the world though, is that like it's so easy to get around, whether it's like, oh, I can just summon a vehicle at any time as long as I'm near a road, or you can fast travel and airdrop onto a fast travel point, which was my go-to. Like if I wanted to get somewhere fast, I would just airdrop to the nearest fast travel point and wingsuit in the direction of like my destination that I needed to get to. And that cut down on so much time.
One of the good things in co-op, because I get distracted a lot. So like the person I was playing with who reviewed it for our site, they would be all the way up there, and it's a fairly wide breadth. Like you can be pretty far away, but when you get too far, it will pull you to where they are, which can get annoying if you're trying to like do some stuff. But if you're somebody like me who just gets distracted and like essentially some of the missions you're carrying a substance and you have to like stop and like cool it down, and so our strategy was one person shoots, takes care of enemies, the other person just books it to the next water station. But you can get, if you're not good with a gun like I'm not, you can kind of get, or if you're under leveled really, you can kind of get stuck where you are. And the ability to get pulled up when you fall too far behind was really nice.
For sure. Kate, I saw you nodding along with Shay. What's been your time like? I think that's a sentence. What have you enjoyed from this from the experience so far? What haven't you enjoyed?
So I really love Danny. I really love the fact, like Shay explained, like Danny is a person. Danny feels things. Danny is going through an actual character journey. I saw somebody on Twitter like describe that Danny just hates tyranny and she wants to get rid of it. I was like, actually, no. Danny wants to escape it and be away from it. And the game is about her learning her place within Libertad and like learning her place and where she can fit into having more to do than just escaping. And that's something for me that is really good to see, because you get to see a lot of these character pieces that I think a lot of people throw away side dialogue. I think side dialogue is done so well. Like those little transitional scenes where you're just moving from point to point, the conversation that characters have are really good. There's this one really poignant one where Danny's talking about wanting to go to Miami, and they're like, well, the American dream doesn't come in your color. And like they actually like explore like what happens after and how revolution isn't a single generation thing. It's technically intergenerational trauma and how it transitions. Like once something is overthrown, you're not done. So from those positions, and this is kind of what Far Cry has struggled with from the outside looking in a lot too. It struggled with that in the last one, where you have these larger beats that it's trying to hit, and it does fairly well in making you confront. But because you have Supremos and like all of this crazy stuff and a dog named Chorizo and Guapo, who the crocodiles who I use, because I do not stealthfully do anything. I just go in and I wreck it, and that's how I've been since I played Call of Duty. It's how I am now. It's hard to. It gets a little bit muddled, but it's weird because both of them work, and it's where they meet that sometimes it can get a little bit rough. I actually thought Giancarlo Esposito was the worst part of the game.
Really?
Yeah. He's playing Moff Gideon and he's playing Gus and he's literally just him. And I think the problem is
he's even got a dark saber, which is weird.
Like I think what the problem is when you take something like a dictatorship, one, you're already doing a trope that literally everybody has done. And two, you have Giancarlo Esposito, who isn't even Latino, who is going to be using just other representation of dictators in film and media to build something off and doesn't necessarily have any sort of connection with what that means in a real sense. It's one of the reasons why the music works so well in the game, is because people who worked on that music actually have memories of living under dictatorships. Like, there are little nuances that you miss, and in his performance, it very much just feels like Giancarlo Esposito shows up and did a thing. And his accent is atrocious. It's like it's gotten 10 times worse since he was Gus in Breaking Bad. Like it's.
Oh, that's wild.
I don't like it. It's very bad because everybody else in the game is so strong. Like the voice acting cast is very strong, and the way they pronounce words, how they talk, all of it feels natural. So when you have somebody who is very forcibly putting himself into a Spanish accent and not really knowing where those R's are supposed to roll sometimes, it breaks it for me. So he's like a no-go for me.
That's an interesting perspective. I've also heard people, I'm curious for all your perspective of people complaining on Twitter about, when you have people who are bioluminescent lingo.
Duolingo.
Two language. I can't even say language. Good grief. Yeah. So clearly I'm not even monolingual. But when you have people who speak more than one language, you don't often, just immediately switch to one lane between the languages. It's like you constantly have somebody saying like speaking English and then saying mijo, or you're just like these weird Spanish words in the middle of a sentence. Does that drive you wild?
I do not speak Spanish fluently, but there are words I do not say in English. I literally, I don't have an accent. I don't speak it. But like if I'm walking around and I need to find a hair tie, I had to think for the English word. I will just say chongo. Like I will just say that. I will use my accent. It will come out when I pronounce things like guapo. Like I don't say guapo. I say guapo because that's how we did it. And so for me, and also to like add some situational awareness, I'm in Texas. A lot of the Mexican culture in Texas, which is very upfront. I'm not from the Caribbean. Like my family is native Texan. Like we are indigenous and Mexican. And in this state and in Central Texas, our life is Spanglish. Like it is very natural to just be speaking fluent English and drop in Spanish words. There are some words too that in Spanish hold, I don't want to say a different meaning, but like just like a different context. Like when my husband makes me angry, I don't say he's being stubborn. I say that he's being terco, because terco like means stubborn, but like the way it was used growing up, it means something very different. Like my mom would call me that if I was doing something worse than just being stubborn. And all of that, like for me, and I wrote a piece about it. So I didn't review the game, but I did write a piece looking at the things that I thought it did well. Mm-hmm. And the language was one of them.
Okay, that's the perspective I wanted to hear, is like, just does it seem, my dad's wife was born in Mexico. She's from Mexico. And when she can't think of an English word, she'll just call it a mother. So she'll be like, "Hey, hand me that mother over there," and it's mother for like everything.
Well, so the funny thing is, growing up, like, the reason I don't speak Spanish is because my mom was forcibly assimilated when she went to schools. I'm also one of the only brown-skinned women in my family, as my mom was, and so for us, my mother saw Spanish as a hindrance. So like, I grew up being told not to speak Spanish, and somehow things still stuck. Like call and response. So if somebody calls out for me, I don't say like what or anything. I don't even say que or mande, because my brain doesn't know what to answer. I just go, like I don't act, I make a noise.
Yeah.
to have a reaction. And I think that that's one of the things that you have to look at, because this perspective will be different from somebody who's US born and somebody who lives in Latin America as well. Because somebody who lives in Latin America or lives in the Caribbean, and I would say more Latin America, because a lot of my fellow like games people who are from the Dominican Republic or Puerto Rico are like, no, we actually jump between languages all the time, because it's just people are colonized. We make different languages within a language because it's how we have to live.
Yeah.
Say mother a lot though.
I do not.
I want to know.
I do not
that's
say
what
mother.
I wanted. I wanted Juan Carlo
out.
Esposito to say mother all the time. He never said mother, not once.
But yeah, it's going to be different, because somebody in Latin America is going to want to see the Spanish done, and they're going to want to see it done consistently. But Spanglish is a way of life for a lot of people, and it's done well when it's done. The only thing that I don't like is they say coño too much. Like, coño is not something that I say, because Mexican Spanish doesn't really say coño that much. But like, it's every other word all the time. Like that's too much.
Oh, and pinga.
Yes.
Those are the two they love.
Like, it's just everywhere. But in the other times, like, it is very much like you'll say a phrase. Like, there are some, like my mom speaking to me who is fluent in both languages. There are times where she will just tell me a sentence in Spanish, not because she doesn't think I'm going to understand it or because she doesn't want to speak the English. It's just that was the easiest thing that came out right now, or she's really emotional. So like when I get angry, I have an accent for whatever reason. Same thing when I get excited. I mean, that's part of your life code switching. And so like, it is something that has kind of frustrated me, seeing those critiques that you're talking about, is that it very much erases a large section of Latinos, Latinx, Latine, whatever you want to call us. Like, we're not all going to agree on Far Cry, because we can't even agree to what we should call ourselves for 30 days out of a year. Like, we're not all going to agree on it. But the important thing to understand is that somebody's experience may not be somebody else's, and to just kind of like listen to what's happening in the conversations being had.
Yeah, for sure. That's great perspective. The other thing I was thinking about is like, are we supposed to assume they're all speaking English? Like, I just assumed we're supposed to think they're speaking Spanish and it's being translated for us.
It reminded me.
And it just kind of adds to the authenticity, right?
Yeah, and that's how I see it too. Like, I don't know if anybody here has seen the show Warrior, but that show did a really cool thing with Chinese language. I think it was mainly Mandarin, that may be wrong, but with Chinese languages and English, where it would show you when you're in the perspective of the main characters who are all Chinese Americans in the show, they would be speaking in English. And then if you would switch to the white perspective, you would see them talking with accents, or you would see them talking in Chinese, and like all of those different pieces. And it's understanding what perspective you're looking from. And
cool.
so
Really
like to that point, I just saw myself as Danny, and that's how my friends would talk.
Yeah.
It was fine. And the other thing too is if you're playing the game with captions, in each sequence, they only translate Spanish once.
I
And
noticed
then
that.
again
yeah.
in that sequence, they're putting the onus on the player to know what that means going forward. And that's something that is actually really good. And Spanish is the second most spoken language in this country. And it's something that I think is also really important when people do that. It's the reason at our site we don't italicize Spanish, because a lot of our readers are from our community. We're not going to other a language.
Yeah.
And that is something that game does. And that's an intentional choice.
Sure. So Far Cry 6 is basically a Spanish language learning tool, is what you're getting at.
No, I'm glad that you shared that. I can't talk either. I'm glad that you
What's
shared that.
happening today?
I know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
All the coffee I had beforehand. Yeah, I'm glad you shared that, because I was, sitting here playing, and I'm just kind of like, I'm like the type of person where I'd prefer like the whole game to be in Spanish, and like just let me like into a window into people
Yeah.
and their language. But to hear you give your perspective kind of changes my thoughts on it, because I always just thought it was like heavy-handed, right? But to hear you say that, no, there's totally a group of people that do speak like this, very valuable. So thanks for sharing that.
Like if my mom's gonna tell me a proverb, she's not gonna say it in English. She's gonna say it in Spanish, and then she's gonna say like, "Do you understand what I'm saying?" And I'm gonna be
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, Mom, sure."
Nod respectfully and hope she doesn't
Yeah.
call on you, type of thing. Yeah, for sure. This has been a very interesting conversation, because you've obviously given me a great perspective on this, and Shay too. You've hit on things that excite me and worry me about the game, because like the shooting, I've always enjoyed the gun combat and Far Cry. What I haven't enjoyed is the 6,000 markers where I need to go and do things and
Me
that kind
neither.
of stuff, and it sounds like that's very much here in this game. A question to everyone who's played this game, because it sounds like, Reeves, you have played this a little bit.
I have. I'm pretty early on.
Okay, gotcha. Are the side quests worth it, right? Do they feel more, not respectful of your time, but like more valuable for me to go off and do? Or is it just like Far Cry being Far Cry at this point, Shay?
I think that so there's different side activities you can do. So you can go around and try to erode Castillo's empire by like taking out checkpoints, like military checkpoints, or taking down forts and destroying anti-aircraft cannons and stuff like that, which that all makes the world traversal a lot easier as well. So
For
that's satisfying. And that's just your standard like Far Cry shtick of like, go into this area and clear out all the enemies and collect all the rewards. And
Yeah.
that's, if you like Far Cry and like the basic formula they've put forth there, you're gonna like that aspect of it. I personally like that stuff. I like taking out enemies in a fort and claiming it. Now all of a sudden it's a fast travel point and it's a place I can go and supplies and craft stuff and everything, and that's cool.
Yeah.
The stuff that I really like are the yarn stories, which are basically like side mission chains involving characters. So sometimes they'll reward you with, you get a new amigo, or they'll reward you with just giving you like access to new weapons or stuff like that. But it's not always, it's often wrapped in like a story that is important to one of like the side characters. So like there's one where it's like you're trying to reunite one of the characters with like their long lost love. And so, like the first mission is like delivering a love letter that he wrote to this woman that he used to be in love with, and like apologizing, but like her entire house is like booby trapped, so you have to try to like make it through her property without stepping on landmines and tripwires and stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
And then it just progresses from there. And then it's basically him making amends for all the mistakes that he made. He was a part of the revolution that took place in 1967. And he's trying to make amends to all the people that he kind of has neglected in the time since then.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Cool.
that type of stuff I really enjoy. And of course, like so much of it, some of it is touching in like stuff like that, but so much of it is kind of like, I like to think of it almost like the Yakuza series. where
Yeah.
it's like the serious stuff they try to keep, like, I would say the main story is like 80% serious.
Yeah.
But I would say that ratio flips a little bit when you go to the side stuff, where it's like 80% a little zany and 20% touching and serious.
Yeah.
Huh. And Alex, I know you were asking, seems like there's some good and some bad. And how are you a fan of Far Cry? Because I'm not.
You would think with my Halo shooter, Call of Duty background, how I grew up playing games, this would be, totally my bag. I have yet to finish a Far Cry game. I think
that's exactly where I'm at.
I think the closest I got was 3, skipped 4 completely, 5. I think I was just too tired of the world, at that point,
the weakest of the new style of Far Cry.
See, and
I think that worse than Primal.
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah.
And like I've beaten every Far Cry game except for Blood Dragon, and it's just because I didn't like the color palette. I love what that game did, but like almost like Saints Row 4, like we were talking earlier.
Mm-hmm.
In that computer simulation, the color palette is so boring to me that like that's why I was glad that we were not in a computer simulation for Far Cry or for the new Saints Row game.
See, and I actually think I don't disagree with that, but I also think Blood Dragon's one of my favorites because they lean into the zaniness and the wildness of that it's more contained, right? It doesn't feel like I'm checking off as many boxes. They can get, wild with the guns and stuff like that, and really blow that out in that way. So
I was actually going to point you to that one.
Yeah,
New Dawn's good. I was going to point you to Blood Dragon though, if you want to beat one. Like that one's pretty short. Blood Dragon is, and it's got all the the Far Cry formula. It's completely intact there. So
for sure,
if you want to just finish one, that's a good option.
Wouldn't be a bad one. Yeah, I actually honestly think I'm a little bit more excited for the DLC versus the game, because it is that the vignettes about the villains in hell or something like that. So it's gonna get it has the opportunity to be a little more out there and lean into the CD launching guns and that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So
and I will say one of the things, and I should actually say this, I hated this game the moment it was announced.
Mm-hmm.
The way it was marketed, a lot of what it's like, there's like right now, think of 2 Latino protagonists. Think of 2 that aren't in a fighting game. There are very few of us in gaming. And so when all of the original marketing came out, I was worried that we were going to have all of the satire and humor and all of this stuff that Far Cry is known for, but it was going to kind of be devoid of context because a lot of the marketing material felt that way. Mm-hmm. But when I played the game, I actually really appreciated a lot of the choices that they made in the humor that they brought in.
Okay.
And the pieces that they did. Like there's a character called Honron, and that's a joke on how some people say home run. And she's dressed all in baseball clothes. And it's funny because you wouldn't know that if you didn't know that that was a cultural thing. Like I was talking to our games editor, is the one who reviewed the game, because they've played every Far Cry multiple times. Mm-hmm. And they were like, man, there's not that much satire in this. I was like, but there is. And there's some like more over the top stuff, like the cockfighting mini game, which is I think everybody can recognize. But like there are pieces that hit, and I know people are mad about it on Twitter, but like brown people, that's in our culture. Like that was actually really good execution of taking something that is not great. I don't condone it. But also something that that's a part of island life. That's a part of a lot of Latin American life, and taking it and making it a satirical piece without punching down and without being like, ew, they do this. It was just more of like, here's Tekken, but with roosters. And so there are those little pieces where I actually think the game really succeeds. And that's also, I think, why I don't like Castillo even more, because that is just so overtly like everything that we've seen done before, where I'm kind of like, here's some of the smart stuff they did when it came to like working in the satire and the humor and the jokes and all of that it's known for, that I was just kind of like, really? Castillo is the easy one. So yeah, that's something, at least from my perspective, that I really appreciate.
For sure. What it sounds like to me is they get a lot right without fully hitting the home run.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it doesn't sound like it's the garbage that a lot of people were thinking it was going to be.
Yes.
So that has me intrigued.
Yeah. There will be discourse.
as there
There
always is.
always will be.
I think it will be more of the discourse before, as somebody who was on the side of like, this is trash, I don't want to touch it, and then played it because it's like I felt like it was kind of like my duty as somebody who has my perspective to like play and at least see how it works and be able to talk about it thoughtfully if it misses the mark and if it does well. I feel like more of like the discourse now is going to be just talking about different types of things that went well, different things that didn't land with one person, things that went well with another. Like one of the things I've been doing, like I've shared quite a few reviews from Latino journalists who didn't have the same opinion I did, but it's important that it's out there because our perspective is going to be extremely varied on a game that is this different. And to Shay's point, however you play the game is going to give you a very different experience. Like, I sucked using the Supremo, so, like, I used it very sparingly, even though it's a very, like, zany, crazy, giant part. But, like, the weapon mechanic, or the weapon system was actually diverse enough for me that I didn't use them that much. I also lit myself on fire a lot, so that kind of made the choice for me. But like that's like I think that there's a lot to chew on and a lot to talk about that keeps this game from like going into the dumpster. Like there is a lot there that I really want to see people engaging with, one in good faith, but also just like having conversations and looking at things and doing that without kind of flattening it and removing the culture that it's coming from, because they're not coming from, but the culture that it's looking to represent. So
hell yeah.
Yeah. Yay, actually talking to one another and not sending out side tweets or whatever. So, Shay,
you're so old, dude.
Yeah, I know I am. Yeah, right.
I'm gonna call them that from now on.
I know. I'm an old soul. I like movies. Don't give me these TikToks and whatnot. Anyways,
Alex, aren't you like 23?
I'm 27.
Every time I bring up TikTok to him, he like acts like I'm like some like weirdo. I'm like, I'm a 30-year-old who loves TikTok. I don't care.
Still waiting on Vine too, man. That's what I'm hoping for one of these days.
It's here.
I'm a 30-year-old who uses TikTok because the UI is easier to make videos than Reels.
Well, thank you all for that perspective. That's Far Cry 6. Shay gave it a 9. Go check it out on the website. Go check it out on the YouTube page. Mr. Van Aken killing the game per usual on the video review. This is a long one, so I apologize. Actually, I don't, because this is a great time. I'm having fun. Hope y'all are having fun. Life is good. We're going to talk about the Switch OLED because...
Do you have it with you?
What kind of question is that? Of course I got it. There it is. Of course I got it.
Right, the screen is.
Yeah, right?
It's like that scene in Pulp Fiction.
I'm gonna do my best to not laugh every time OLED is said.
OLED.
Yeah. So wait. Yeah, we've had this conversation off air, and listeners, hit me up. Let me know if it's OLED or OLED, because I'm curious now. I'm very curious.
Well, my stepdad always makes fun of me because I say SNES. And
wait, you say SNES?
You say SNES?
He's like, you mean SNES? I'm like, yeah. You don't have to make fun of me. We all know what I'm talking about.
Alex Stadnick, can you kick Alex Van Aken from this conversation?
Crank him out of here. Yeah.
When you read it without the, when it's just like written out SNES, it's like.
What do you call the NES?
The NES. And I'm kidding. I say NES.
I was like,
you have to say it.
You add an S in front of it, and suddenly my brain's like, SNES.
I guess I am a walking contradiction, probably for many reasons, but I say SNES, but I say OLED. I don't know. Maybe I said OLED because it was easier in scripts. I don't know. Maybe I'm a fool. I'm sure the internet.
I think it's amazing. For clarification, we're still taking the pandemic pretty seriously over here, and I'm with my husband 24/7, and he's who I talk games with. So I haven't heard another human say OLED or OLED. So here we are.
Yeah.
Anyway, Alex, you have the new OLED version of the SWITC.
Correct, I do. And let me tell you, for this, I think this is the perfect upgrade for specific groups of Switch people. First off, I would say launch Switch owners who are like me and who felt like maybe their launch Switch was showing their age. I wish I had my launch Switch with me because
I've seen it.
it's literally breaking apart.
It's
like
in
the back,
shambles.
yeah, it is
This
not
man
good.
pulled back the back plastic, and I saw the inside of the Switch. I was like, okay.
Literally,
yeah.
that's been the last like year and a half of my life, and I'm terrified that just one day I'm actually gonna pull it because I'm like, I need to. I don't know what you would call it.
You
I'm
like
sure a
prying
therapist-
your consoles apart. for
yeah,
sure,
yeah, I like
yeah.
tearing things apart, but I like
Yeah.
to stay busy with my hands, so I find myself picking at it. But regardless, I knew I needed to make an upgrade at some point, and I think there's enough in the OLED, the OLED.
He said it wrong. You try not to.
OLED.
Yeah, I think
It just
there's
makes it sound Irish.
yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
OLED.
The OLED. Yeah.
Just gonna call it the Olay, and
Olay.
that's it.
Yeah. The
Accent
new
the E.
Switch. Yeah. I think it's worth it for people looking at an upgrade from the launch Switch because the screen is absolutely gorgeous. Like the namesake comes through, and I got to show Alex it, and it's the color palette is remarkable, and it unfortunately, even in our video coverage that we did, the video review, the unboxing, we're not able to show that off to the detail that we need to. Because it is so, it's just a thing that you need to hold in your hands and see, because along with the larger screen, there's just these colors and characters pop in a way that it was impossible with the LCD screen and the screen that they had at launch. So I think that alone is worth the price of admission. But then you also get some of the new features that the Lite and the updated battery model brought, right? So, it has the 4.5 to 9 hours of gameplay, whereas I think the last one was like 2.5 or 3.5 or whatever, It has 64 gigs of storage space compared to the 32 gigs,
I
right?
didn't know that.
Yep. Yeah. So they double the storage on it, which is nice because I already had a micro SD that goes up to 128. So now I'm set. Like, I feel like I can really, not have to delete games off my Switch for a while, which is really nice. The kickstand, my goodness, good golly, Miss Molly, like it goes the back of the console, and it makes a world of difference. I'm not playing it a ton, obviously, in kickstand mode, but the times I need it and on like a plane, or if I'm out about with it, is really nice because it's not just this dinky little plastic thing that falls instantly, or breaks off, and you're worried that everything is gonna fall apart now. Like, I feel like I'm not going to shake the table, but I feel like I could really give the table a good shake and it would still stay up. So just all those combined together make for a really nice package for launch Switch people, and also for people who like to play undocked. Like, the screen is fantastic for it. Like, that's the majority of my playtime as well, is in bed, laying on the couch, playing indies that I don't necessarily want to tether myself to a couch for, on vacations, trips, whatever. Like, I think this is the perfect upgrade for people who play it the way I do. Unfortunately, though, not everyone plays the way I do. Well, and obviously I play on the TV as well. I'm not gonna not play Breath of the Wild on my HD TV. Like, get out of here. You plug it in, it's the same experience. There's no magic of getting a new console, plugging it in, and being wowed by it on a big screen, because it still outputs at 1920 1080. The UI is the same, and because they use the same processors, that means the load times are the same no matter what Switch model that you have. The limitations of these consoles that Nintendo has made not to the same standard of like Xbox and PlayStation with visual fidelity and the SSD and stuff like that. Like,
this is your point is like, this is different than the like PlayStation Pro or the
Correct.
Xbox, One X.
This
is the same thing in a sense with a newer screen.
Correct. And docked players will, and I can feel people rolling their eyes, PC players who are like, we were able to plug an Ethernet cord in, 20 years ago. But like, it is such
still being like that online. I feel like they probably are.
probably, yeah.
I'm probably being like that.
Calling it out, toxic behavior. Kate, come on. No, it's really nice to have, because on those nights where I have the fellas over and we're playing Smash Bros, right? And we're playing online or something like that, or, playing Mario Kart, it is nice to have a more reliable connection, because we all know that Nintendo's infrastructure isn't conducive to the greatest multiplayer experiences. And to be fair, that's not necessarily why a bunch of people come to the Switch, but it's just part of the package at this point. But it's nice being able to download these games in half the time. Like I don't need to explain why a LAN port is nice. It's just, it speeds things up and makes things more consistent.
Well, to be fair, like that's actually something I'm excited for, because the only time I really use my Switch anymore isn't to play single player games, to play online community nights. We're doing Mario Kart, or we're doing Pokemon Unite, and that's how we're playing. Like my Switch has become a group experience for me, and less of the very personal, like, depression hole savior that Animal Crossing was for 300 hours of my life.
For real.
Now, like, yeah.
So yeah, I if your primary like reason to play the Switch is on TV, I don't know if I can recommend this to you. If you're like on the fence, right? If you have a Switch Lite or an updated battery model, like there's a lot already there, and especially if you have like the Ethernet dongle or an SD card that you've fixed your storage woes. There's not a lot here to love, but like the screen is I mean,
it's a game changer.
It really is. Yeah.
When I came over, because I helped Alex film the review, seeing it, like he said, like seeing it in person, it's not just him saying that. It really, like, I was contemplating canceling my pre-order actually, because I was like, do I really need a new Switch? Like, sure, it's nice. And I am somebody who, if I did not have this job, I would not own a Switch dock probably. But I needed to capture gameplay. And yeah, it is gorgeous. And I did notice, I briefly, ever so briefly, I checked out Metroid Dread because you had that up. What was a Smash? I saw you playing Smash, and then I briefly booted up Breath of the Wild. The games that I noticed it the most on was Smash and Metroid Dread. Because Breath of the Wild is already so colorful, I feel like so saturated too. I think that helped out like the original LCD. So I didn't notice it as much. I mean, it's certainly there. It was more so like Metroid when you're on this, you have this brighter character on this like really dark background as Sam's sneaking through the dungeons, that like the contrast and the colors really just shined. And it's gorgeous, man.
It really is.
I'm keeping my pre-order for what it's worth.
Sure.
I'm not getting a console. I bought it with my own money, and I was contemplating canceling that, but I'm going to keep it now that I've seen it for myself, for what it's worth.
Good.
So.
That's awesome. And I think I glossed over it pretty quickly, but not only is the OLED screen beautiful, but the 0.8 inches of size difference matters a lot. Like you talked about Smash. I feel like it was easier to focus on my character in a 4-player Smash match. Like,
because everything's just like, a bit bigger. Like they're kind of stretching that. It stinks because like things are more, you might notice more like edges on assets and stuff, but everything's a little bit bigger. And yeah, like you said, just makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I had to see it in person to believe it, but I do feel like it makes a lot of difference, and it makes me excited to play a machine that frankly over the last 6 months hasn't intrigued me as much, like since Pokemon new Pokemon Snap, just because we're in pandemic season, right? There, Skyward Sword I'm almost through it, but I just don't know if I can push myself over the line. Like, I feel like this has been especially coming off last year that had Animal Crossing and Hades, right, on Switch. Like, and there's time, right? I'm very excited for the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl remakes. I'm excited to try Advance Wars. Pokemon Legends Arceus is very soon. So there's good stuff on the horizon. But Metroid and the Switch OLED have really brought me back into it, and like I'm excited to, because it's a fun thing where it's like, oh, I bet Eastward looks really good on this. Let's try that. I bet Mario Kingdom Battle looks really good on this. Like, let's take a look at that. So there is a level of excitement there that, like I said, as a person who had a launch Switch, I'm actively loving. So,
you think the trailers for the 4K Switch will look on this thing when those come out next year?
It'll look even better. Yeah, it'll look the best. Yeah,
I could actually contemplate watching YouTube on that thing.
I will say I didn't have a pre-order, but I had a friend who pre-ordered 2 because he was scared that one of them was gonna get canceled. And he hit me up asking if I wanted to buy it off of him, and I was like, I don't know. And I ended up going with yes, mainly because I have a light. I can't play it docked, and I have very bad hands. And I'm a small human. Like these are small, tiny baby hands.
Yeah.
And you're like in a dollhouse right now. That's your background, right?
and they struggle after like 2 8-round matches of Mario Kart. Like there's just something with how condensed and small that is that like it becomes physically painful to play at a certain point if it's a more intensive game. And so for me, I wanted the ability to dock it, but I also wanted to be able to actually play a Switch comfortably.
Yeah.
And that was something that like kind of made me ask my husband, I was like, should we do it? He's like, you complain about your light all the time. Yes, tell him you'll get it. And so I'm really excited for it now. And then hearing you talk about it, especially because I'm buying it for a better handheld experience too, that makes me excited.
Good. That's awesome to hear. It's funny you bring that up because I have the same problem, but it's because my paws are giant. It's damned if you do, damned if you don't, Nintendo, I guess. But just make bigger Joy-Cons, that's the key. So yeah, I think we've talked enough about it. My review is on the site. I got to write it this time, which was very exciting for me. So go check it out. I did the video review as well, and beautifully shot by Alex Van Aken, by the way.
Thank you.
We tried something a little different for the Switch video, so go check it out.
I'm a little inside baseball. Do we score consoles on our website?
I gave it a B. I think
we do letters.
We do letters for consoles. Yeah.
Huh.
A B out of what?
A B.
A B out of Z.
Yeah. So yeah, I gave it a B.
That's passing.
Hey man, I got by in school on B's.
My mom would be taking me to Golden Corral on Tuesday night if I came home with B's. We're going to the chocolate fountain. We're doing the thing. B is good.
Chuck E. Cheese would have given you points.
Yeah, exactly.
Things for a B. So
that's true. You could have got into like not the state school, but the sister school, right?
Yeah.
Dude, I got straight A's in junior high, and my mom was like, "Let's reward this." And we bought me a shirt. Like we went to the mall, and like when they were doing custom shirts, and it was like this anthropomorphic A doing a thumbs up, saying, "I'm an A+ kid." It was the dorkiest shirt. That was my reward.
This kid.
Yeah, exactly. Oh gosh,
make sure he gets beat up every day at school.
I got made fun of so much for that, and I was like, I'm never getting straight A's again.
Yeah.
My mom was just like, good, that's what I expect from you.
Yeah.
Oh no. I feel like we're gonna get into some childhood stuff that I don't know if we're prepared for here, but you heard it here first, folks. The Nintendo Switch OLED worthy of a Golden Corral trip. So we're gonna take a quick break, and we're gonna get to community emails, and then we'll get you out of here. So we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Game Informer Show. I talked a lot in the last segment, so I'm gonna let AVA do his thing.
Yeah, you wouldn't shut up, man. Come on, dude.
There's
four other people on the show. What are you doing?
I saw y'all messaging back and forth. I get it. It's fair.
Yeah. Housekeeping. You know it, you love it. Here's the part of the show where we keep you up to date with all the things happening in the world of Game Informer. We always start the housekeeping segment with a new podcast review. If you all are kind enough to go and leave an honest review, then we want to read that off and say thank you. We've even read a 2-star review off before, and we addressed the issue. So I would love for you to give a 5-star, but I will read a 2-star if it's critical and honest.
Also, the person who left the 2-star, we changed the problem, so you should boost that to 5.
Yeah, come on, dude.
We listened, right? We did it.
We fixed the timestamps. They're there now. Yeah. We got a 5-star review from Julian Seguro. Julian says, since the Hegelson era, I've downloaded and listened to every episode of the Game Informer show. I remember seeing ads for it in the magazine and thinking, oh, this is like a video show online, and didn't understand what a podcast was. I would literally sit next to my computer and listen while doing nothing else, like people did with radio shows in the 50s. It was my first podcast, and I've loved the evolution and changes of the show ever since. Keep up the great work. You guys are my Friday morning staple. Your most loyal fan, Julian from Milford, Connecticut. Thank you, Julian. That was very nice of you. We appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for being a fan for all those years. Yeah, that's wild. That's cool. So thank you for doing that, Julian. We appreciate you helping the show out. And if anybody else out there is wanting to leave a review, just head over to Apple Podcasts and yeah, leave us a review there. That's where we like to have them, I guess, because it helps us out. And if people are wanting to check the show out, they see your review. It helps us out. So thank you for doing that, Julian. We appreciate you. Moving on to upcoming Twitch streams. Tomorrow, if you're listening to this day, this launches Thursday. We are streaming Battlefield 2042, the open beta. I'm going to be on that. Don't know who's going to be joining me, but it's going to be a great time regardless, because you can surf tornadoes in that game. Like, whoever's on the stream, it's going to be a good time, right? And I will be leading the charge, and I promise you, we will be riding a lot of tornadoes. So it's going to be great. Of course, we've got replay on Friday at 2 p.m. Central. Notable YouTube videos of the week. We've kind of talked about a lot of them already. The OLED Switch unboxing and review. We've got that. Far Cry 6 review, Metroid Dread review, and a lot more, actually. We've got some Battlefield gameplay up there. It's a big week on the channel, and next week's going to continue that trend. So head over to youtube.com/GameInformer. Subscribe if you haven't. And I'm almost done talking. I'm talking a lot now, Alex. Social media plugs. Follow our lovely host, Alex Studnick, at Studnick76. That's STUDNIK76. You can follow me at It's Van Aken. You can follow Shay at Brian P. Shay, and Ben Reeves at Benjamin Reeves.
Yeah, no question mark though.
Yeah. I can never remember if you spell it out. At Benjamin Reeves. And Kate, where can people find you and But Why Though on Twitter?
You can find me on Twitter at ohmymythrandier. If you know the reference, you get a gold star, only in my heart, because I'm not going to mail you that. And you can find But Why Though at But Why Though PC, BUTWHYTHOPC. If you want to join our community, you can find us at discord.gg/butwhythough.
Sweet. Awesome. And then Shay, you have a special announcement for people who like podcasts. Let me tell you, specifically Game Informer podcasts. Shay's got some good news for you.
He's pregnant.
So this is a huge week of news, as we've covered in this episode. It's also a huge week for Nintendo news in particular.
Oh.
So as we've covered in this episode, lots of Nintendo stuff. So what better week to launch a Nintendo-focused podcast presented by the fine folks at Game Informer?
So he's having a baby podcast.
Mr. Brian Shay.
Yeah, I am going to be hosting the All Things Nintendo podcast. It's going to hit every Friday. You'll be able to find it on all your favorite podcast platforms. And yeah, look forward to it.
Awesome. Yeah. Go subscribe. Go leave those reviews. Those are very helpful for the start of a show. I used to have a problem with launching podcasts. I used to launch a lot of podcasts. So let me tell you from firsthand experience, if you go and subscribe, it would mean the world to us. It really does make a difference in the show's first week. So go show Shay some love. Go show Game Informer some love, I suppose. And subscribe to All Things Nintendo.
And it will be an audio-only podcast at first. We might eventually transition. Once we're back to like working in person and having like our studio like all set up and everything, we will be maybe transitioning to video. But let's see how it starts off with just audio. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
I like that.
That'll be up to you, GI community. Embrace it. Get Shay on video.
Have you seen people from this episode of the GI show on the first episode of All Things Nintendo?
You're not teasing, are you?
Maybe a little bit of a tease.
Maybe a little. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's housekeeping for the week. All Things Nintendo. Go subscribe. Go review once you listen to it. We don't want to be dishonest. My conscience, my conscience won't let me just.
You can be dishonest if it's a good thing. Like if you're going to say like this is the best podcast I've ever listened to, I don't mind.
I mean, I haven't. I'm gonna go leave a 5-star even though I haven't listened to it yet. So, but I mean, what is it? Nepotism, right? So we need some genuineness in here. So
let's get some genuineness. How about it?
Yeah. How about we go to listener emails, Alex? I'll give it back to you.
That sounds like a lovely idea. Maybe it would help if I actually had them up instead of looking at tacos in Austin.
I mean, if you need me to, I can read them off. I'm here. But while Alex pulls it up, podcast@gameinformer.com and the official community Discord. That's where you leave your questions. Alex, I'll give it to you.
Yeah. Wait, Alex, I'm confused. You have a really cool Discord?
Yeah, we do. If you go to twitch.tv/GameInformer, you subscribe with Amazon Prime /Twitch Prime or with a tier 1 sub. One time, not a recurring thing. We just wanted to keep out the trolls, and so we put it behind a walled garden, so to speak. So you go subscribe once, you get access to the Game Informer community Discord. It's a lot of cool folks. Got some mods in there, some great community members. A lot of good talks about movies, games, really whatever. And it's a great place to be. So yeah, if you have Discord, come join the community.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Like Biscuits with Davey did. We're gonna read that the email off first here. It says from Discord, or excuse me, Discord message. Biscuits with Davey says, "What is an aspect of your life in which gaming has had a positive impact? Conversely, what is an aspect in which gaming has had a negative impact?" So I'm all about the good. Let's start with the positive here. Y'all seemed excited about the question. I don't know who wants to kick things off.
I've actually written a thing about this. This is one of the first larger opinion pieces I ever wrote for Game Informer back in like 2015, I think, called "How Gaming Shaped My Life." And it was everything from like, you know, my favorite hobby became my profession and like helped me through some really, really dark times in my life, all the way to I learned how to play tennis by playing Virtua Tennis and Mario Tennis, and went and joined the tennis team in high school. So every little thing like that, like, I mean, yeah, we could get serious and be like, you know, in like my worst times of my life, like I would turn to gaming and just like bury myself in like we talked about Animal Crossing earlier this episode and how that helped out a lot with the early stages of like COVID and everything, and like distracting us from just the hellscape that was the real world, to things like, you know, personal problems where you know, you're just going through a really, really rough patch in your life, and gaming is there for you. You can either discover something new, get lost in a new world, or wrap yourself in a nice comfort blanket of going back and replaying Breath of the Wild or something like that. Or Final Fantasy X has always been one for me. So yeah, I think that's pretty much how it's helped me in my life positively.
For sure. Reeves, how about you?
Yeah, it's hard for me to pinpoint a specific game that's like, hey, this has changed my life. But have you guys ever read Reality is Broken? Jane McGonigal. It's a pretty good book. It maybe some people say it's like kind of pretentious, but I think it's good. There's a part in that book where she talks about there's science behind, you know, you play games, it makes you feel good, it raises your endorphins, you know, and you can like take that experience, like those emotions you have, and that stuff carries over into your real world. So we talk about games being an escape. Brian was just talking about it. They are, and they're good. That's actually a good thing that allows us to escape from things that are bothering us, and it can lift your spirits up, and then you can carry that on into your real life, you know, habits, and that'll make you feel good after you've played the game, which is pretty cool. I think that's a really like powerful thing that games do, and I think it's so powerful actually that it can be addictive, right? And so that's kind of the negative is like sometimes I'll spend more time on a game when I really should be doing my homework or should be doing this, or you know, it'll distract me from, you know, mowing the lawn or something. It's just you know, knowing when to separate the two. Games are good, but you know, so is chocolate cake, but you can't have chocolate cake every meal.
What do you mean?
No, I'm right there with you on the chocolate cake part.
Like, you're not my dad. Don't tell me that.
Wait, I literally could just go to the store and eat it every day. What are you talking about, Ben?
That's the only good thing about being an adult. Bills, yes, but chocolate cake every day, also yes.
You
Sorry.
guys are so young. You can probably have chocolate cake every meal.
No, I would die.
No,
at
I
this
can't.
point. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Not to start with the negative, but as a jumping off point, Shay was talking about, you know, games are great, but they can also be bad. You know, things that I've struggled with in my life, I use games as escapism. And that can also lead to, I've talked to my therapist about this a lot, you know, in the past, you can develop maladaptive coping skills where, you know, you're going to the game for this, you know, escapism, but then the game starts becoming the new drug, or it starts becoming, you know, the distraction from, like Ben said, like from real stuff. And you got to be able to do both. You got to be able to, you know, escape when you need to, catch your breath, you know, let your mind, you know, focus on a thing that's not the stressor. And then once you're done with that, even not right after, but like in the weeks to come, whatever, you know, figure out how to conquer whatever you're going through. But on the positive side of games, it's done a lot for me. It helped me and my dad get through his sobriety when I was 15. Gears of War 2 specifically. My dad was living, not at home while he was going through his sobriety, and Gears of War 2 allowed us to play Horde mode together and kind of rekindle our bond and kind of have a common ground for us to meet at and get to enjoy his other company despite all the other heavy stuff going on. Fortnite's done similar things with me reconnecting with my family because I've lived across the country from them for God, like 8 years now, almost a decade. That's scary to say.
Wow.
So Fortnite and crossplay specifically, when that came out, that helped me a bunch. Connected my little brothers, who my youngest brother is still, he's a freshman in high school now, like still very much in school. So that's ways that gaming has helped me. So.
Yeah, I think for me it's very similar in that gaming has been a connective tissue between me and other people. You probably wouldn't know it because I'm very loud, both on Twitter and when I guest on things. But I have a very hard time connecting to people, and a lot of it is just because I do process things differently. I am fairly blunt as a person, and sometimes that is a lot to handle when you're in person. And gaming has been a vehicle for me to connect with people because there's something to connect with before we start the conversation.
Yeah.
And that has really helped me a lot. It's helped me build community. And I think one of the things that it's also helped me with is sometimes when there is a miscommunication or a misunderstanding, like I can send somebody to a game to show them where to understand a perspective better. I think games can be used that way. And I think ultimately, like on the thread of connection, it's what connects me to my husband a lot. Like we don't have time to do anything. He runs the site with me. That's his full-time job. And we're always, always, always working. I have a full-time job outside of what I do for the site. And it is very hard to find time for each other. And then like every winter we throw ourselves into an MMO or like Anno co-op, and we just disconnect from everything else, and it is just me and him playing this game in opposite rooms talking in Discord. And it's just the connection, and it's a way for us to carve out a space for ourselves when we don't have that time in daily life. And actually it's funny, when we first started dating, he was like, are you okay with me like just like dipping for like 8 hours every now and again? And I was like, it's fine. I've turned down dates to go play games because I wasn't done yet. This is gonna work. And so like there are those like there's a power there. There's a power in co-op. There's a power in crossplay. And that's been something that's been really vital for me. It's one of the reasons at our site, if there is a game that is co-op, we make a very concerted effort to do co-op reviews. Because like for me, I want to know what that co-op experience is like, because that's how I connect with others. That's how I play with my husband. So.
Awesome.
That's the
Cool
good.
idea. And then you have like 2 people write it?
Yeah.
That's a really cool idea. I haven't seen a lot of that, but yeah, that's fun.
Like we actually started because Gears of War 5 made me mad because I had to play as a stupid robot. And nobody talked about that. Nobody talked that if you did 3-person co-op, which many of us have been doing if you play Gears, one of you would have to be a robot. And so I got very angry. And it actually turned into a piece where like a lot of our reviewers play games together. Like I'm working on one for Far Cry 6 right now, because that's a piece of the game that some people only buy a game for. Like I don't play single player games anymore because that's my time with my husband. So we play multiplayer and co-op, and if I'm going to make a decision to buy it, I want to know kind of what's under the hood and in store for a co-op player.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That is really cool. You're a cool person. Has anyone ever told you that?
Yeah.
Hey, we should get her on the show.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if she'd like that. She seems a little too big for that. Yeah, I think that the piece about personal connection is where I land too. I have a group of lifelong friends that I truly believe we stayed friends when we all went out to college because of we could hop on Xbox Live and still play together, right? Like, and I am social to a point, if that makes sense. Like I think I really am an extroverted introvert, where it's like, I do want to go out, I do want to do things, I want to, like especially in college, right? I wanted to have the college experience, but also there's some times where it's like I can't stomach the idea of going out. So it was always nice knowing like Friday night I had my high school friends, and even my friend, like I'm still really close friends with a friend from preschool. And part of that is because we have played video games together like the entirety of our lives together. It was Nightfire on the GameCube. It was, Halo 3. Like, it ran the whole
Is that
gamut.
Joe?
It's not Joe. It's Ryan.
Oh.
But Joe's the same thing. Joe and I did, shout out. He's probably listening right now. Maybe not. I don't know. But that's how Joe and I have stayed in contact together too. So, on the flip side of that, though, I definitely think I use now more so again because of the pandemic. But then in high school too, I use games as a way to be busy and not go out and do things with other people, because it felt safe. It felt more comfortable. And I think I limited myself in that way, using that instead of going out and growing up a little bit to a certain extent when I was younger. So
You can stop growing. You've grown enough.
I can't get
I
through the
also
damn
have
door anymore.
a very quick story about how it negatively impacted me, which everybody can have a laugh at my expense. In college, my girlfriend at the time wanted me to go to a country music concert. She was really into country, and I'm not so much. And there was just like a country musician playing at our school, which is like a small state school on the east coast of Maryland. And I was like, nah, I'm really feeling Guitar Hero right now, so I'm going to stay home and play Guitar Hero instead. Mm-hmm. So I was like, yes, I get like a night to myself to just play Guitar Hero all night, no responsibilities. She's going to be having fun at a concert. And then afterward, I was like, how was it? And she was like, oh, it was so good. Like, she stayed after and met everyone and took pictures and everything. And turned out it was Taylor Swift before she was popular.
Oh.
So my ex has a picture with her with Taylor Swift and a signed like cowgirl hat that she got.
Oh, gosh.
And I'm just like, like 2 years later, I was like, oh, she's like the biggest pop star in the world now.
I think
that story could have gone multiple places.
Yes,
I was worried
break
for
up with
you.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, it being Taylor Swift, that's wild. You messed out.
I
will laugh at your expense on that one.
I don't know. I think
she has like one album out and it's like a country album, and I just don't care. I don't care about seeing like a one-hit wonder. And boy, was I wrong. Guitar Hero did me dirty that day, but it also it was Guitar Hero is important to me, so I'll take a neutral, like a draw on that one.
I will say on the negative side, not to get like too deep and dark, but like the things which sucks is not sucks. What's good is we all have like something about connectivity and pieces where games have given us, things to latch onto and sometimes pull us in too deep. And I think that like that's also one of the things, like my negative experience is really just gaming culture in general. Like it is something that is beautiful and something that can be harnessed for great things, but it is also a space that doesn't see past itself a lot of the times. And what I mean by that is an individual player, there's a lot of like, they only see themselves as what gaming is. And for people like me, a lot of the times who like, I am a woman, I am brown, like you tend to be pushed out of spaces or you tend to be assumed to not be in the space in the first place. And we do that whether we mean to or not. Like there is the side where it is extremely gross and hard and harassing, and I've dealt with that. But there is also the side where it's the person who, like, I worked at GameStop for. It's the person who like doesn't ask me for a recommendation but went to somebody else, or asked me for a recommendation and then asked another person the same question they just asked me because they don't believe that I would know. And there are like these small things that build up that I think like gaming, I have always known that I belong here and I've always had a core group of friends that have really helped me have a space. The harder thing was trying to be a gamer in a wider sense. And I think especially on something where it is very online now, especially like with access to social media and all these things and the negative parasocial relationships that get built up within that, it becomes a lot to carry. And sometimes like it is easy to question whether or not I belong in a space because either I'm not agreeing with some people or people are attacking me or like, and it gets hard. And it shouldn't be that way because gaming and like there's a home to it and there's a beauty to it and there's a safety to it. But I think that's also why it kind of hurts more if I'm dealing with disagreements or anything in gaming because I'm more invested in it in a way that I'm not in film Twitter because it's less of a connection. And so I think for me, that's kind of the flip side of that. Like that's the negative is how such strong feelings on things that we play for 40 to 300 hours. Hello, Animal Crossing. those strong emotions we tie to it also means that it kind of gives us too much of a sense of ownership at times that can very much work to keep people out. And gaming hasn't been great about including people who look like me. It's getting better. I mean, it's way better than when I was a girl in a Call of Duty lobby, like in Modern Warfare 2. But I think in order to push it forward and to kind of get away from the negative and turn it back into a positive is we need to see where those connections lie and never be afraid to reach out to somebody who may be doing something differently and understand that there is no one right way to play a game. There is no one right catalog to have in your recently played or your played through history. Like, this is just something that if we can understand that it's bigger than just one person, we can build something really, really great.
Yeah, 100%. Very well said. I think that's a good way to end that part.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, so good, because I honestly couldn't say anything as smart as that. So, Biscuits with Davey, thank you for the question. Thank you all for answering it. We're gonna do one more because, as you could see or listen to, we've gone very long this episode. So we'll do one more. But I felt like we should include this because this is kind of a special. We're coming up on a special milestone for Game Informer, and this is from Orlando Lopez. And says, "Hey, Informers, my name is Rolly. I write to you today to talk about the 30th anniversary of this beloved staple of gaming media we call Game Informer, and ask what does it mean to you, whoever's on the podcast at the time, to be a part of the magazine's history, and will there be any special celebrations? Will you produce some videos or publish some articles and then pull them out on the website? I personally became a reader, fan, follower in 2011, and the last 10 years with you have been delightful. P.S. Having a printed gaming magazine in 2021 feels special, and I hope it can continue for the next 30 years. Also, if you need a fighting games resident advisor, I'm here from you." Thank you. We appreciate that. I don't think we have anything to announce celebration-wise. We are aware of it. Let's just say that we have looked at our clocks and we know we've been around for 30 years. But Alex, we can talk about our experience. But Shay, you've been here for what? 8 years now?
Yeah, about 7.
And Reeves, you formed Game Informer, right? You started it. Yeah.
No. Yeah, but the fact that it's been around for 30 years means I've been around for half of it because I hit my 15-year anniversary this year, which is pretty wild.
Wow. Unbelievable. Yeah, I guess when you think about 30 years, what does that mean to you? Especially Reeves, you being here for half of it.
It means I'm old, man. No, man, 30 years is a hard thing to hold in your mind and just try to imagine what life was like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And we were playing Genesis games and the SNES and the PlayStation wasn't even out yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty wild to think about. But just for GI and what it means to me, it was a big break for me. It was, how I broke into the games industry. So I owe a grit of gratitude.
Gratitude, yeah.
Yep. I'm announcing something today. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's been a fun experience to grow in. Some of my favorite memories are going to E3, meeting Miyamoto, meeting Hideo Kojima, interviewing people that I don't want to say idolized, I don't think I'm holding them up like they're gods, but I've definitely worshipped them. No, I mean, yeah, exactly. And just being able to go to the studios even too, and see these people, meet them, shake their hands.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to pull out one specific thing because there's so many things I'm thinking about. But yeah, those are some of the memories too. Are just hanging out in the office with people. I remember reading the 200th issue. Now we're over 300, but I remember the 200th issue and bearing down. We've got to get this out the door. Staying late, getting it done. That was a fun memory.
Mm-hmm. Shay, how about you?
E3 2016 was a really fond memory for me. There was a lot of really great interviews that I was able to conduct there. I ran into a lot of really awesome developers just randomly at E3 that year, and then that was also the year that I got to meet Miyamoto. So, because that was we were interviewing him for was it Breath of the Wild? I guess at that point, yeah, it was Breath of the Wild, and then I guess Ben and Ben Hansen were they're like, "Hey, we have time for one more question," and they threw it to me out of nowhere, and I'm like, okay, I get to ask Miyamoto one question. And I was working on a piece about the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise at that time. So with my one question to Shigeru Miyamoto, I asked him a question about Sonic the Hedgehog.
Of course.
Do you remember what his answer was?
Get out.
So I asked him about like the first time they ever had Sonic and Mario in a game together. And he basically said, like, yeah, we were talking with Sega a lot, and they basically, if we were going to put them in a game together, it couldn't be like an action platforming game where like they're both doing like the same kind of stuff that they do in their own games. It needed to be like a special thing, which is why it was like an Olympics game at first, and then it became Smash Brothers. So yeah, that was kind of his response. Like it couldn't be like, all right, it's just a Mario and Sonic crossover platforming game. It had to be something unique.
I think that was also the interview where we introduced Miyamoto to that Mickey Mouse cartoon that
It was.
apes Mario Brothers. Have you guys seen that? There was an
No.
animated short like 5 years ago, or maybe more at this point.
He was very excited about that because Mickey Mouse was such an inspiration for him. And like Disney stuff, and to see that like Disney at some point through a Mickey Mouse cartoon paid tribute to Mario, he had never seen that before, and he had a really great reaction to it. Unfortunately, it was after we shut off the cameras.
Yeah, that's a bummer. And I think he maybe made a joke about getting legal on the phone or something. I don't know. It was good, but
Oh yeah,
was
he was like,
fun.
"Oh, we got it." Yeah, that was funny.
So yeah, those are always the fun moments for sure. I just to like highlight a thing too, is a more specific thing. I
Mhm.
remember really liking the Man on the Street videos that we filmed, mostly when Ben Hansen was here. He was kind of like the second half of what made those work.
Yeah.
But we did one like, what does the public or Man on the Street think of the Wii? What does the general public think of the Wii U? I think was the first one.
I
we did.
watched that. I remember this video.
Those are still fun to go watch, and I'm not just saying because it's my work, but I think they're funny, interesting content. So go check that out if you're interested.
I have friends you cornered on the street.
Oh, really?
In one of those. It was Stone Arch Bridge. I can't remember which video it was. I'll have to go look and see that. But
That's fun.
yeah, I love those videos. I'd like to get
They
back
were
to those
always my
actually.
favorites. That the rapid fire videos. And
Yeah, why don't we
of
go outside
course,
anymore?
Oh, let me think. Yeah.
Extra Life.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh,
Extra
Extra
Life's
Life's a
always
good
so
one
much
too.
fun.
Mhm.
Yeah, Extra Life, I always look forward to, whether it was a fan or a person here. So, Alex and I have been here a lot less. I just hit 2 years since my internship. Alex, you're coming up on your 1 year here, right?
This month is my 1 year. Yeah, the 26th.
That's nutty.
Yeah, it is.
Alex, 30 years is a lot to process, right? But what does this mean to you to be a part of an institution like this?
Yeah, it means so much. I mean, it was also on top of it being my break into the industry, I was running, OK Beast at the time and burning the candle at both ends, and was heavily thinking of, maybe I'm done doing this because this is a second full-time job and really hard. And then just got a lucky break, and Game Informer, Mr. Alex here and Eric Conway at the time
Shout out.
called me, and yeah, now I'm here. But as far as like the history of Game Informer, I will never forget. It's burned into my brain, the Halo 2 issue, where you all had exclusive. I don't know if they're exclusive. I thought they were exclusive screenshots of Waterworks, which is a multiplayer map, and it was detailing the new ghosts or you could ride in the ghosts and pilot them. And I was just fawning over like the descriptions of like what are the ghosts like to control and all this. And I remember I think there was a screenshot of Zanzibar, and that map, which is like one of my favorite Halo 2 maps of all time. And just like looking at and that's the map that has the wheel in the middle, and you can drop the bridge. And I just remember me and my friends like at the lunch table, scouring the screenshots in Game Informer. And so yeah, it's I've been a fan of the magazine for a while. Of course, my fandom has ebbed and flowed throughout the years, but it's
And now
kind of
it's ebbing.
yeah, of course, it's ebbing. Yes, no, it is flowing more than ever. And yeah, it's just really special to be even a very small fraction, a 1/30th of the history of the magazine. So
Yeah, you guys really should have got Reiner on the phone for this one.
I know we should have.
We should bring it back sometime later this month.
I was
and
gonna
do a
say
grill.
I think this is a good start to a longer conversation that I'd like to have about 30 years of history, because Reiner is going to have a lot more insight than a couple of bums like us who've only been in the door for 30 minutes. I think for me it's also a personal thing too, because I grew up in Minnesota. It was always, growing up, seeing the byline saying Minneapolis, Minnesota was always inspiring to me, because I thought games journalism happened on the coasts. And I was like, Minnesota's just not, we're not on the map in the same way. Right. But it was always like seeing that in that magazine. I was like, okay, if y'all can do it, like I can do it. Right. And I think I internalized that and thought that was like the dream to get here. And it has been, to do it how, being a kid from Minnesota was really special to me when I first joined on, and the legacy that this institution has, and I wanted to be a part of this, because I think we do games media the right way, with informed writing and thought put into our videos and stuff like that. We're not out here just like doing like angry reactions at everything, right? I feel like we still do stuff the right way, and I love being a part of that. And it's been a wild 2 years, with the pandemic and going to work from home and all that kind of stuff. It's definitely been the ride of my life. I can say that. So
yeah, I think that you hit the nail on the head in saying that this is something that we could talk about for hours, and I think that it would be doing it a disservice to not include some of the even longer timer people like Reiner. Has Matt Miller's been here longer than you too, right, Ben?
Yep, a couple years longer than I have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it like they have. I'm sure they have incredible stories, and like that even I haven't heard before. So I would definitely loved if like we had like a 30th anniversary episode where you just talked to kind of the long timers.
We may have to do that. Yeah. So, Kate, I don't want to put you on the spot, right? But like, did you, like,
You
Game
care at
Informer,
all?
Yeah.
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I care a lot. I mean, I worked at GameStop for 3 years.
Oh yeah.
Game Informer was actually the only like lifeline I had to gaming for a very long time. I didn't realize that I'm Game Informer's years old. That's news to me.
Yeah. Right.
But for me, like growing up as poor as I did and with lack of access, like Game Informer was something that like if I couldn't get it, a friend did have enough money to go buy it that month. It became something that like was the only way I understood what was happening. And then it was the only reason that like I am a gamer now, or that I was able to nurture that when I couldn't physically do it, was to read Game Informer. It was cutting out pictures of my favorite characters. It was saving it because the cover was my favorite. And when I started working at GameStop, I just started collecting every issue, and I don't know where they are. I think my mom threw them out, but I had like a stack almost as tall as me, just that I had kept and saved, and they weren't all in like chronological order. They were just everything that I had saved. And that for me, like when everything felt like I couldn't access it, Game Informer was a way for me to access something that I loved. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd love to hear that.
So it's real dope to be here now.
Yeah,
Thank
definitely.
you for inviting me.
Yeah, we're so lucky to have you on, and I think we're gonna let everyone get back to their day. This has been the longest episode I think we've done, but
this
worth
is like
the time.
Hanson era or McNamara. I don't know. I feel like
McNamara went. Yeah.
I think there's one. I'd have to go look. I think we almost did 4 hours with Andy Mac one time. I was in the studio all night. It was long, but
What a
Kate,
beast.
yeah. Thank you so much. One more time, if you want to plug anything, or where people can find you, plug away.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at ohmymythrandir. It's not just games. It's a lot of every type of pop culture. I do everything. I talk about everything. And you can find at But Why Though, or at But Why Though. You can find But Why Though at But Why Though PC. And our website is butwhythoughpodcast.com. And we're raising money for St. Jude, so help us raise money. If you donate $25, I will give my dog a treat, and you will see it on camera because I will record it. There's a puppy involved, and also this is for a very good cause. And
if
that's
you
at
don't
Saint.
pay, her dog will starve.
That's on you.
We
You
are
have a moral obligation.
that is at stjude.org/but why though, BUTWHYTHO.
Fantastic. Well, y'all, thank you so much for joining us. Viewers, listeners, thank you so much for listening and watching. As always, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Head over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We appreciate the sub. Let us know what we're doing right, wrong, the whole thing. So we appreciate you. Go enjoy some games. We got plenty to enjoy right now. So thanks. Be good to one another, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.